I wasn't able to open that yet.
No.
So what did you send us? Did you send us both?
2 weeks ago, no.
Just 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
or last week.
Did you read them, Dan?
Yes.
I'm gonna trust you guys. Need a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. So 201, because I didn't read them. Mayor, anything other than?
No, you have a lot tonight, and I know we'd all like to.
We're gonna
get
move to
plastic
CPA
bags.
so that Jamie can help us out. Now, Jamie has a budget, which I want you guys to see because it's a little more detailed and it will help us. Joe, I think you, maybe give one to Karen if he needs it. I don't think the police department needs.
Karen, do you need this?
It's the CPA's budget. Now, I'm gonna try and explain this, and then Jamie's gonna step in and say, no, that's not really what it means.
Right.
Under the CPA, we are required to present a budget which deals with the revenue, splits it up, at least 10% in open space, historical preservation, affordable housing. This year, the committee decided to put 12.5% in to be safe. If you look down on revenue, last year, local tax and round one match, $506,000. So that was higher than last year's estimated revenue of $456. So we estimated $474 in revenue. That's the CPA tax plus the
It's a conservative estimate.
right conservative.
So it only actually includes half of the state match.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. So we might get more. Okay.
Because the amount we get from the state has fluctuated so much in the past, it's hard to know how to budget that.
So I wanted you to see what the revenues were for CPA. Now, if we go to the actual account, you'll see in open space, there's 70,000 budgeted. But Jamie explained, where it says adjusted, these are projects that are either approved or, you're not looking at, this is the budget we're looking at right here. Okay, you have that? So last year we budgeted 60,000, the CPA budgeted 60, now we're at 70. And the amounts that you see under adjusted budget are amounts that equate to open space projects.
They're the supplemental appropriations that were approved either this fiscal year or what's remaining in those accounts from previous fiscal year appropriations.
Do you understand that? Okay.
That's the 16 adjusted?
Where it says 16 adjusted, like there's 125,000, we actually voted on that just recently in the council for the lights,
Yep.
and that's ongoing. So this is a little different. Under preservation, historic preservation, there's a couple of projects there, but it's basically 70,000, again, 12.5%. We're required by law to do 10, and under preservation housing, okay? Now, if we don't spend that, if we do a housing project, for instance, we'll take it out of that budget first, and then we'll use the other budgets we have. Administration expenses include Jamie's salary and other administrative expenses, $12,300. Under the reserve fund, if you'll see, there was $266,000 budgeted. We used 141. Is that what this means?
No, the 141 is what's remaining.
What's remaining in the budget from this year, because we didn't use it yet. And there's reserve transfers of 125. That adds up to that. Okay. If you look at the first page of the summaries, this is where I really wanted Jamie to explain. You'll see, and I'm on page 13 of the budget summaries, and you'll see a big figure at the top under undesignated. So before I just blow it and try to explain that, I'd like Jamie to try to explain it.
So
to
the
you.
undesignated amount shown, the 1.25 million, is all of the spent money from all of the previous fiscal years that was not either set aside under the 10% requirements or specifically set aside, designated for a project. So it's all the revenue that's been collected by the city, including the state matches, that wasn't specifically purposed, not including this year's revenues. So
Does
the
that
reason.
get purposed at some point?
Yes, so currently when the fiscal year started, it was 1.25 million after all the fiscal year 16, 15 accounts closed.
Mm-hmm.
That current amount is less.
It's 980 something.
Yeah.
That's what you told us at the meeting.
Correct, and so what that is, yeah, it's,
That's monies that haven't been designated for a project. It's what's in the bank, basically, $980-some thousand. I think it was 980.
yeah, sorry, 615,000
Well,
is what the current balance is.
if that doesn't include the reserve fund, right? I mean, the total amount we have left in the budget was something like 900, wasn't it? Well, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, so
The
I
other day.
think that undesignated amount was what was the sum of all of those unspent monies.
Okay.
And there's currently 600,000
In undesignated.
in undesignated, which is, so
I think when you add up the other funds, reserve and the open space and the other accounts, we get the 900 and something.
yes.
Okay. So that undesignated means is one part of the budget. So that one, does that clear to you guys? what you-
As mud. So, so is,
Thank God for Jamie, because I would have been able to explain it.
from that money, is that where we got the money for the lights? From the
No,
undesignated?
No, the lights actually were taken out of the open space account and the reserve account, which is the bottom line.
Oh, all right.
See, we have
Yeah.
They're
two
under
sep-
the separate categories peg. If you look under preservation, open space, you'll see that the projects are listed.
Okay.
Like athletic lights, rail
Yes,
trail.
if you
you'll
go
see-
to open space.
Okay,
And under
which is
reserve,
page 109, where it starts.
Okay.
Okay.
and under reserve, yeah, okay, we see transfers there, and that's part of it was for the lights.
And so the
Okay.
reserve and the undesignated are sort of, the reserve is this current year's money that hasn't been specifically purposed, that we're budgeting, so that way the CPA committee can use it. Otherwise, we have to wait till the end of the fiscal year,
Okay.
because anything that's not budgeted can't be touched until the books close at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
So,
Even
at the end of,
you
at the
can't
end
use the
of,
undesignated.
no, no, because that's all closed, when it's in the
Okay.
tent.
All right.
So the 141,000 that's in the reserve fund at the end of the fiscal year will close to the undesignated account,
Okay.
as will all of the
And does that go to
unused-
zero then? Or does it go
Well,
to
It
whatever you
goes to the
budget?
new budget, which
Whatever
is
it wipes it out and then you have a new
Which
budget.
would be the 251.
251.7.
Plus.
Got it.
for
Because
January.
all of the unused salary and admin expenses also goes to the undesignated, but all of the projects stay open.
Okay.
I think it's akin, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, this money goes to the undesignated fund, whereas other budgets in the city government would go to free cash. If they're not used.
CPA, like
It's
enterprise, is self-funded.
self-funded, so
And
it's,
all the money stays within itself.
thank you, that's excellent way of putting it. See, that's why she's here. Okay? Any questions on the CPA, Joe or Dan? Anything else you want to add? Thank you for coming. I'm gonna make a motion that we, Finance Committee, recommend to the full council, we accept the mayor's recommended amount for the CPA of $474,000 for approval by the full council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
CPA is done. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, Police Department. We're going to you now.
Thank you, Jamie.
Okay. I'm just gonna start with police, which is the first category, unless you wanna look at the entire I think we just go category by category rather than go with the full. Right? Is that okay with you guys?
You betcha.
Okay. So we start with full-time regular. Looks like we got a person back, guys?
Right, looks like we're gonna have, with the mayor's proposed budget, we're looking at having one full-time officer back. And that officer would go directly into the detective bureau. That's where we're getting inundated with a backlog of cases.
Yeah.
As you can see in my narrative report, in 2015, we answered almost 16,000 calls, had over 400 arrests and 1,200 criminal incidents. The detective bureau, with 2 detectives, they're getting backed up terribly. And at one time, we had 4 detectives. We got cut in half back when the budgets got cut. And with the mayor's budget, it looks like we're bringing one back. And that person would go upstairs into the detective bureau.
Okay.
Before we can actually utilize that new hire, it's gonna be 6 to 9 months down the road, because the academy starts on November 7th, and we'll get a waiver until the academy date, and then we'll lose that individual for 6 months.
So do you promote somebody up to detective?
Yes, someone
And
from
then-
patrol will be promoted to the rank of detective.
Right, so,
Correct.
so what the chief is explaining is what this does, it adds a patrol person.
Right.
So a new hiring, and then somebody will be
Someone-
promoted into, it'll
Correct.
allow an additional person.
What does that give us for manpower now?
That'll give us 27 officers. We currently have 26. That'll give us 27.
Officers and detectives?
Officers and detectives, that includes chief, captain.
Oh, that's the full total complement,
That's a
including
full
you
total
two.
complement. At one time, in my career, we had 29 officers, so technically we're
We're
still
getting closer.
too short. We're getting
It's
closer.
better than going the other way.
Yeah,
I've been saying
that's
this
it.
every day,
Yeah.
so, because I love the
We are.
Luckily,
budget.
there's less crime.
Oh, Peg's in charge of putting pressure on you guys.
Okay, go for it.
And supervisor is two
Supervisor would be
persons?
2 people. That would be the captain's salary and my salary.
Okay. Now, I asked this, and I know it can't happen because we have to have overtime, because by contract, they get overtime. It's not gonna go down just because we add a person. I asked this at DPW yesterday.
Well, yeah, yes and no. It's a tough one to answer. It can go down because being a detective, they'll be inside investigating crimes. We have overtime for investigations, and that's when the detective is not working. The way we're staggering the shift, we'll have more coverage with the detectives. So if a crime comes in, they will be able to investigate it, not on overtime.
Oh, that's good.
And so
So we're
not all
hoping
the
it'll go
time,
down then.
But it could.
Okay, if you look at it, you can see that what we recommended was what they had in 16. Okay, it's the request that we cut. So even though you'll see additional personnel in some different departments, you'll also unfortunately see some pretty tight cuts as what was, requested. So, with it, and I do have to make a note here that the police department are notoriously, have not come back for transfers during the year.
Well,
There's
why-
only
why-
one extreme year, so,
Well, that's what I asked. I don't
They-
remember approving a supplemental, and it's 261,900
the
versus
261,900 is what they requested.
Right.
Oh, that's the request, okay.
Yes.
And you requested that because you expected it?
Well, he
That's
didn't
what
have
I'm
any
confused
idea that we
about.
were going to put on, he requested what he.
Oh, he didn't
his
know about the new
department-
guy?
Right.
No.
But what we do is, when we look at it, and the captain and I go over it, and we go every single beat that we need to fill, and we look at it realistically. These are the beats we need to fill, and we come out with a real figure. This is an amount that it would cost if we were to fill the beat, all of the beats. If you look in the budget narrative, we've left over 800 beats open from year to year. So that means there's a position that our officer is not filling that should be working. So that's how we save money, and a lot of times we can use a special officer, we can swap people around. We are the masters at juggling people and plugging people into place to make things work. We have officers that are working 2 midnight to 8s and 2 day shifts in order to cut down on overtime and to fill beats.
We've restructured,
Everything.
in an effort to specifically save overtime.
Good.
In addition to that, going to the detectives, with the third detective out there, when the detectives take time off, their vacation,
There'll be other guys right
we don't have to backfill the detectives with a detective contraction. So when a detective takes time off, they take time off the books, but we don't have to backfill them with overtime.
there. You only have to do that with patrol.
With patrol, exactly. So we're saving money there as well.
But I can tell you that they have excellent management of their budget. They're extremely wonderful at managing their budget and staying within their budget. And of course, the chief would have had no idea when people come with us for their proposals, it's what they feel that the department needs, the needs of the proposals, but they're also masters at rescheduling to put in what they are provided with. And so I had a conversation with the chief at the very end, telling him that, that was my desire to put forth another officer because of, the staffing levels that, to me, are extremely critical.
Grace do anything wrong?
Well, we do plenty wrong, but
We don't want to put that on
But not- but not
camera. Wait, I have to try.
We couldn't be luckier
But
to
not
have a
specific
department like
to the
this.
budget.
We're extremely lucky to have a chief that manages his department like this, and to have the detectives, the captain, and the officers that we have. I think they are second to none.
I echo that, and I wanted to compliment you on the new elderly officer. What a great idea. I don't know if that came from
That
outside.
came from,
you
the
like
captain actually
suggested,
went to
but-
a meeting and thought that it would streamline getting complaints coming in through various people and made it easy that we're gonna appoint one person, that's the person that's gonna be the go-to person.
It's like community
And,
policing just for the elderly.
Yeah,
we
it works-
identified a
works good.
loophole, and we made a commitment to fill it.
Good.
You'll also
Especially for that
see,
populace in our community.
it's their specials that they use. You might want to talk about that,
Right,
chief.
right.
You'll see them in the downtown.
Police specials right
Yes.
here,
We
Yeah.
take-
that budget
See-
line.
What we do is we take specials, and this was, I gotta give the union a lot of kudos for this, because the union, over the past couple of years, when we have a little bit of money in the budget, and we save the money on the specials until summertime, spring, summer, and early fall, you will see an officer walking the beat in the evening from 7 o'clock to 3 in the morning. That's a special officer, it's not a full-time officer, paid at a much lower rate. It gives them experience plus the exposure out in the street. Business people see them, and the union agreed to that, yep, call them in, you can use them,
It's
it's
like
not
the
busting
part-timers in the fire
overtime.
department.
But
Really helps.
they're rattling doors, they're talking to business owners, and we get,
What's their level of training again?
they have to go to a part-time police academy, which is about 13, 14 weeks. Then they have 400 hours of training in-house here with a field training
Alright, so
program.
they're
So-
not just volunteers.
No, they're
They have
absolutely
training.
not.
No.
Are they
no,
carrying
no.
weapons?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So they're trained
Yeah,
up.
They're fully
full
qualified.
hours.
Right.
Oh,
The
good.
only difference between them and the full-time police officer that would be recognizable is a badge. Outside of
That's
that,
it.
they're identical.
And
Are they in
again,
uniform?
Yes,
Yes.
and they
Full
can make
police
arrests,
powers.
everything.
We utilize them for a lot of our community outreach that we normally wouldn't be able to afford.
you've seen them
Excellent.
everywhere, you
With our
just didn't
overtime
realize that they're
Exactly.
specials when you see them in the downtown. And, like I said, their presence is very noticeable in the
Well,
downtown.
The mayor gave you 5 more than last year, so I think that's great.
The other,
yeah.
the other thing too is regarding, what was I just gonna say about the downtown? Regarding the specials, the police are not civil service, and they hire from their pool of specials. So when they do have an opening, they
The specials
have
can-
seasoned
Right.
employees that
Right.
they have seen their work ethic.
So that's what's
and-
gonna happen with this new.
That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we pitch, and I pitch a lot, and I preach a lot about hiring practices and leadership. Our organization, of course, I'm somewhat subjective, is an amazing group of men and women, specifically because of our leadership and hiring practices.
Good.
And it goes hand in hand with everything that we try to do, scheduling, structuring, saving money, cost-saving measures, doing a lot more with less.
Well, I always like the fact that you're not civil service, because that means you're gonna use an in-house
It
person
used to
who's
be.
been trained.
Right.
Exactly.
You got off of that.
They used to
By the
be.
time we get to hiring that individual, on the average, they've probably been here about 2,000 hours. So
There
we
you
know
go.
exactly what
There you
they're
go.
about. They're fully trained, they can step right
They
in.
know the community.
And they know the
And they know.
community.
They
So
have
in other
buy-in
words-
too. They do.
So in other words, the police department is a well-oiled machine. They are the epitome of working together as a team and getting things
How
done.
much did you pay her for all these compliments?
I'm
Listen, not for
a lot.
nothing, we haven't broken out our soapbox about the mayor.
Exactly.
I don't wanna hear that. We already love her.
She's amazing.
Incentive.
Yeah.
I'd like you to explain incentive to our new counselors.
Oh, sure.
Because I don't remember, I don't
Okay.
wanna blow it when I
The
say-
incentive is an educational incentive, and you have a variety of officers receiving a variety of different incentive pay. Some may get 10%, some will get 15%.
There was a name
there's
for this.
20%. It's called a Quinville.
Quinville, right.
And up to 25%. So you really don't know who's gonna be working what. So it's very difficult to come up with an exact number and say, Officer X is at 25%, he's gonna work, X amount of hours, because it's on overtime also. So what we do is we take an average of 18%, that pretty much comes out what each officer would be getting, and that's how we calculate our
And
incentive
they're
pay.
entitled to this based on their education, as I
Education,
recall?
yes.
So
yeah.
if they get a master's degree in
It's 25%, it has to be in criminal justice.
criminal
And
justice?
if they get that degree and it's in criminal justice, they get the incentive
incentive
for
pay.
that, correct.
And at one time, it was reimbursed by the state. They
Right.
pulled that reimbursement quite a while ago.
Quite a while ago.
Years.
Years ago.
Yeah,
So it's completely unfunded at this point?
by the
Correct.
state, yes.
Yes.
Funded by the city.
But by law, we have to have it available to police officers. Am I correct?
Unfunded mandate.
It's another one.
But it's not it's one of those unfunded mandates that I don't mind, because having police officers with master's degree in criminal justice
Right.
isn't bad at all.
No.
Yeah, plus it's part of the salary. It's calculated into as being part of the salary, so that's what it breaks down to.
So it keeps us competitive.
Anything else, guys, on this?
Just one question. I see that you had requested money for what, a cruiser, but didn't happen,
It
so
comes
what is
through
that?
free cash, sorry.
Yeah, with the cars, the mayor and I always, come to an agreement on the cars. I realize, when I make out the budget, I always put in what I feel that I need. And the mayor and I, we spoke at length about this, and she knows exactly what we need and what our needs and wishes are, and says, okay, I don't have the money here, but you'll be able to get one for capital expenses, but you're gonna have to wait. There's also some ways sometimes that I can use drug forfeiture monies, which we've used very effectively to buy cars like that. With drug forfeiture money, you have to be very careful, because you can't supplant the budget, you can only supplement it. So we have to be very careful about how we purchase these vehicles, how they're written up, and what they're used for. So it's not just like a blank checkbook where we can go out there and grab the money and say, we're gonna buy a new car. But the mayor and I worked very closely with that. We decided what we needed. The department ended up buying one car. We took a transfer of some monies, and then the mayor provided some other monies, and that's how we get our cars.
Okay.
We used to, 2014, we had one car. We used to do one car a year.
Right, it was 1, 2,
But that
1,
was-
2.
Right.
But I think the free cash method is, or whatever method you're using now is better,
It-
because that way you can be sure you can fund the budget.
Right.
Well,
Right.
right, and we use it through, capital expenditures, but it's also, we've been extremely fortunate. I hate to say this for drug money, but they have purchased how many vehicles out of the,
We've probably
we just did
purchased.
2 this past year, but one was completely.
The monies that we've expended is probably about close to $300,000 out of drug forfeiture that we were able to purchase equipment, and that's what we can use it on. We use it on equipment, we use it on vehicles, so it's right around the $300,000 mark. But if anybody was interested, I've got an exact printout back in my office. I can tell you exactly what everything was spent on.
So that's one of the cuts that you'll see in here.
At a minimal, it's 6 cruisers.
Like 6
that I
cruisers,
can
yeah.
remember.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yep,
That's awesome.
it is.
But what I have to say is that money is not there forever. That money, again, we're not getting reimbursed anymore from the federal government because we have no one in that unit. So that money, what is there, is there. Once it gets spent down, it is gone.
And do you get a percent of something?
It'd probably
believe the
take me an
state
hour
doesn't
to
take some of it.
explain it, but to explain it the easy way, depending on our involvement in the case and how much input we had, we get a percentage that's calculated by the federal government. It can be anywhere from 1% up to maybe 15%. So every single case, it's case specific, they look at it. If we had one of the lead investigators in there, then we're looking at 15%. If we were just there and the arrest was made in East Hampton and we sent an officer down to direct traffic, we'd get 1%.
Okay.
So everything is different.
And
It's
these
a
were-
federal task force, so the state
Right.
doesn't have a seat at the table.
Right.
when it comes to-
And Peg, you're probably not aware of Captain Alberti's credentials, but he graduated last year from Quantico, the FBI. And how many years did you work in drug enforcement? 7? 8,
yeah.
which is recommended 5,
Right.
and it's an honor. You have to be invited in. You don't just sign up to work in that department. So it's
We are
an
lucky.
extreme
Feeling
honor to
safer
have.
as the minutes tick by.
I didn't think you knew that.
Well,
No, I
thought it was
didn't.
very
I think we have to send him back out to the drug task force. We need more vehicles.
Oh, God. That's great.
Yeah, he was all, you were
You have
already
to be
there.
invited in.
And the park has involved
He's
on that?
huge on it.
In the DEA, no.
No.
No, Bob, when
Yeah, that
Bob,
was a
Yes.
DEA for
Yeah.
us, so.
when Bob
Oh,
became
yeah.
captain, he
Okay.
became captain, he was
Right.
out because we can't
Well,
have any
and
kind
I'm-
of structure over there.
And on top of it, I think I remember, Chief, that they
Yep.
really only recommend that you're in there
Yeah.
5 years.
5 years
Yeah.
was the
Because of,
max.
for obvious reason.
He was,
And
the only
there.
reason that he stayed more
Right.
than 5 years is because he had an active investigation going and, you know, begged and borrowed, like, can I please stay for 2 more?
Right.
And until I complete it, but the recommended time
After
is
5 years, the burnout rate's very high.
It's real high.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, I'm moving on, that's all right with everybody?
Yeah.
There's a lot of purchase of services that aren't funded this year, I assume because they're minor things, radio, telephones, things like auto supplies, et cetera.
What do you?
If you go to the next page, police department, we just did the police department education, you did cruisers, remember?
Yeah?
And then we go down here, police sick leave incentive buyback, et
That's the
cetera.
old stuff though,
I know, it's all gone, so I'm
but it's
saying.
in this page. It's not that it's unfunded,
You mean it's holdovers?
It's-
Oh, is that
2013.
holdovers?
like police radios COM FY 2015 is now a line item.
Up above,
Up
right.
above.
I'm just saying, these are funded elsewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Gone completely. So the police department has 2,504,739. Moving on to crossing guards.
Yeah.
That's
The,
just,
the crossing guard is for all the crossing guards that we have at the schools. This is a figure, it's very easily calculated. You take the number of school days, the number of crossing guards, the amount of time that they're at that location, plug in the figure, and that's what it is.
Okay. I have no
Here's
question.
a stupid question.
Yeah.
Like, how do you figure out which intersections should have a crossing guard?
Based on past experience and looking at the schools and.
Traffic patterns,
Obviously, we
walkers.
cannot have a crossing guard at every intersection. It wouldn't be feasible. We have enough trouble getting 11 crossing guards now. So what we do is we put it in the highest activity area where you see the most amount of traffic, both foot and vehicular traffic. You put a crossing guard at that location. An obvious intersection where there's crosswalk, where you have, you know, streets that come in, you want a crossing guard there. If it's an intersection somewhere that's more remote and you have one student cross, we're not gonna have a crossing guard there.
Right.
In the past, we've had a crossing guard at a location that had 0 students until we moved them, but, you know.
Is it just parents and people who are interested in doing it, or?
It's
Retirees.
retirees, a
It's,
lot of
it's actually
retirees.
hard to, you know, to sometimes get them, so we kind of keep that open, but
Yeah.
you do have some seasoned that have been with you for many years. But you can see that this is level funded, nothing.
Yeah.
Do we have any issues with safety in terms of, I feel like I'm hearing in Northampton all the time, some kids
Well,
getting smacked by a car,
We have the
especially in front of the
crossing-
high school, do we have
We have the
issues?
crossing guards that are out there, they, you know, they have the vests that they're supposed to have, they have the signs that they're supposed to have. If there's a crossing guard out, we'll fill that crossing guard with an officer that's on duty.
Right.
So they'll go down, they'll direct traffic at that particular location. Knock on wood, no, we haven't had any safety issues. And, but that's something you take a deep breath because it
Yeah.
could happen tomorrow, you don't know.
And the crossing
I think
guards.
the Williston Park, that's gonna happen, because I see kids going across there, I stop, and they don't even look, they walk
They don't look.
across, looking at their phone. They don't even look.
They
And-
absolutely do not.
and the
look.
And if
crossing guards-
somebody's driving and forget, God help us.
But if they're having problems at their intersection, they contact the chief.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they
if
feel
there's an
free.
issue, we get a call,
Yeah.
and, you know, we'll check it out, and sometimes it's just perception, sometimes there really is a problem.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Moving on to detention attendance.
Detention attendance, what that is, that's a figure that's set by the state. The
This
15,250 is an assessment that we get from the regional lockup. There's also a bill before the legislature to make regional lockups in every county in Massachusetts. That's the legislature right now. If that gets passed, then everybody will be paying this. It really works for all the departments. If you're in Hampshire County, we make an arrest, we no longer have to keep someone in, either an officer on overtime or a detention attendant monitoring the prisoner. Most of the time, unless it's during the day, we pack that prisoner up, bring them right over to the regional lockup on Route 66, drop them off, we forget about them. They pick them up, they bring them over to court in the morning, or they take bail right there. So everything is done regionally, the liability on the city is greatly reduced, and, you know, just the tying up of manpower is
Do
greatly.
you have many
reduced.
overnight prisoners?
Oh, we have a lot of overnight prisoners.
We do have them.
Not
Oh,
here.
Not here.
I'm talking about here, yeah.
No, we
No,
ship
no,
them
no,
out.
no.
You
We
get
ship
them out if you can, right away.
We get 'em out.
That's good.
That's
Because
the
that would
first
be a guy on overtime,
Right.
with someone watching.
That's right.
Yeah, we have the facility to do it, but it's such a cost-saving measure for us, sending them up.
Well, it's
to the
nice that
regional
they're
lockup.
accepting them anytime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, if you arrest somebody at midnight, you bring them over there, or do you have to
Yeah.
keep them?
No, we'll bring them right over.
Bring them right over.
Yeah, they open up at like 5:30 every single day.
Yep.
And then, of course, till court opens.
Yeah, they won't take anybody after, I think it's 7:30.
So the only time we really have to sit on somebody would be if we have a late afternoon arrest with the court, we won't accept them. You know, and they don't open until 5:30, we'll have somebody watch the prisoner for like that 2 hour span.
Okay. Okay, dispatch.
This is
Actually, I
another
would,
addition.
I have one more thing that I would
Okay.
like to say before Bob and I have to cut out. Actually, two quick things. The first thing is, I have to just let the council know that it was really a pleasure to work with the mayor and her staff over this budget. I mean, this was a very difficult thing, and this is my 12th year doing it. And this year, it went really smooth. They plugged in the numbers and came back and says, look, we're gonna help you any way that we can. And, you know, I don't think the mayor gets enough credit for what she does, but I think she did a great job.
I think she's,
I agree.
I would agree with
Thanks,
that, and I think morale is great with our union employees, because the mayor said, let's sit down and talk.
Absolutely.
I will compliment her all the time on that, because we always had a lot of friction, and we don't anymore.
The next thing that I have to say is, because Bob and I actually have to cut out of here, is for dispatch. We absolutely strongly support dispatch getting that extra body that's in there.
Can I see that? Okay.
Dispatch, the number of calls that there were, we did a study, it was done by the state, and we did it about 4 years ago. And the state recommended that on the average, we have 2 dispatchers in there dispatching at all times, and in the busy hours, we have 3. We currently are running with 1. And you look at the police department's 15,000 plus calls that they're actually dispatched to, you can probably add 25 or 30% to that on just phone calls coming in. Then you add the fire department with the ambulance and the fire truck apparatus going out, and you're looking at probably 25 to 30,000 calls a year that come into that dispatch center. That does not include the walk-ins or anything like that, and one person is handling that.
Just this week alone, I was there, I saw just this week alone, we had one dispatcher on 2 separate days, 2 separate dispatchers. One dispatcher completely overwhelmed with police and fire operating at the same time. We've been extremely busy this year for I'm not entirely sure what reason. And there was 4 to 5 people standing in line at the window. And this one poor person is trying to,
Do you bring somebody in when that happens?
Joe.
Like an officer or something? or-
We're usually
a lot of
tied up.
times, we're out on the street.
You're on the street dealing with all the calls.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, if you
It's a
think
dumb
about
question.
But
it,
we'll jump in whenever we can, especially in admin. I'll go in there and help out as much as I can. And I'm definitely not the most skilled individual in there. It takes quite the caliber of skill and training to do it. They're absolutely amazing.
you think about it, if there's, let's say, one accident involving 2 vehicles, and there's injury, there's fluids in the road, dispatch is dispatching the police cruisers on 1 frequency, taking information about both of the vehicles. She's dispatching a fire apparatus for the fluid. She's dispatching an ambulance to tend to the injured, maybe 2 ambulances. The 2 ambulances may be going to different hospitals. They're also calling in additional personnel. All of that's going on, and then the 911 line is ringing, and other calls are coming in.
Statistically,
Mhm.
you probably track when you have the most calls. Do you put
Yes.
2 people on at that time?
Yes, we try,
Try to
not
do
all
that.
the time, but that's what we're looking at doing
Well, what
with
you're
the
gonna see
dispatch.
when Lauren presents her budget, you're gonna see that we're in the mayor, it's specific to the busiest time that we can calculate, because nothing's ever set in stone, but based on CompStat and historical mapping, this is what we're striving for, try to give Lauren some relief in there.
Okay, well-
So dispatch falls underneath the 2 chiefs, but Lauren is here, it's Lauren's department, she manages it excellently. And she's going to tell you that, you know, obviously they need more staff, also about the way 911 is gonna change.
Sure.
And so she'll explain all that, but what we did is by, again, trying to put back a person, is looking at the peak times.
Is that a
So-
full-time person?
It's a full-time person.
Great.
So, but it's gonna be peak times, which, again, scheduling at the utmost is really important. So,
Right.
anything you wanna know,
Lauren, you buying
Lauren
some
can.
office tomorrow?
Before Bruce and while Dave is here, Do you have to interact with them a lot? Are you pretty independent and only go to them when you're, you need something? I'm just curious how much supervision they give, just out of curiosity. I don't know if there is a need for it at all.
There's considerable, I mean, Lauren runs the day-to-day operations of the dispatch, but the liaison from the police department to the dispatch is Captain Alberti. And what happens is, because police is totally different than fire, we have our own protocols, we have the own things that we have to do. They have to be, certified in LEAPs, and there's a lot of confidential records. Dave is dealing with quarry information and everything. So what we do is we go in there through the captain to Lauren with our protocols. This is what you need to do. Dave will pretty much do the same thing. Train the people on what the protocols are. Once you answer the phone, you're dealing with two different systems now. You're dealing with police, you're dealing with fire, and the dispatchers are very well aware of who they're dealing with and how they have to do it. If you're dealing with fire, they have emergency medical dispatch, they have the flip cards, they say, okay, you fell, you have a back injury, they go to back injuries, they go to the protocols for that. If they're calling in for the police and they get, a query on a motor vehicle, they know enough to run the query in the motor vehicle, they run the warrant checks, they run all of the information, so they're good. They're really good at what they do.
All right, I'm just curious.
And if there's a problem, if it's a police-related problem that we have, we go to Lauren as the police department and say, okay, there's an issue here with, X, Y, or Z, and if it's the fire department, they pretty much do the same thing. But Lauren does a great job with it, and I can't say enough good things about Lauren being in there, because she's very proficient at what she does.
And again, we have a pool, so we have on-call dispatchers, which we've been fine-tuning. Jane, as you already know, she's our HR director, and Lauren work really closely together on keeping that pool staffed, and the hiring is obviously through the police and the fire, but Lauren is very active in those procedures, so that we do have, and the way we've changed it up is instead of just having on-call, because, people need full-time jobs, so they end up leaving. So we are actually implementing, and you can speak on that, Lauren.
Sure.
Lauren, what's your last name?
Milky.
M-I-L?
M-I-E-L-K-E.
Thank you.
Thank you,
guys.
Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you can come on the first, it would be good.
I
With
will,
somebody?
Yeah, Captain Alberti will be there. I'm gonna be in Maine. I'll be on vacation in Maine. Captain's gonna be there with a couple of other people, so we've got that.
Just so if another counselor
Yep,
asks a
absolutely,
question,
yeah.
it might come up.
He will definitely be here.
You don't want me trying to answer police department policies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. So we got another person in dispatch,
Right.
and you want to go into what this will do for you?
Certainly. So currently, we have 5 full-time dispatchers. We have 3 part-time dispatchers. The addition of this, the other full-time position would enable us to staff the center with 2 people during the day shift, Monday through Friday, which is certainly our busiest time. We handle all the administrative calls that come to the station as well and transfer them to the appropriate departments. And it would also allow us to add additional staffing from noon until 8, which is also.
You'll have 3 at that time?
So what I would do is my schedule I would change my schedule and work Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
I'd have another full-time dispatcher 7 to 3, and then from noon until 8, we would have a second dispatcher some days, not all. So it'd be a rotating 4 and 2 schedule.
Great.
Yeah, and the thing is too, the real need for this, in addition to the call volume that we have, that we already have a hard time handling, the state 911 department is actually overhauling their whole 911 system. I'm sure you may have heard of this.
A little, can
Sure.
a brief rundown?
Sure. Texting.
Knowing the state, it can't be that easy.
Of course, nothing's that easy. So they are actually completely overhauling the system. The computers that we have in there, the 911 system that we have, they're completely changing vendors. It's going to be a whole new process. Texting to 911 is going to be a thing. Video.
Really?
Mm-hmm. We're going
Why
to
would that be faster? I don't know.
Instead of going through the state police.
Exactly.
When you call 911, if you're wherever you are from your cell phone, it goes to the state police where they verify where you are.
And then they send it to the appropriate municipality. And as of right now, say we get a pretty good accident, say we have an accident on Cottage Street right now, there may be 10 calls for that accident, but they're withholding 5 because they know that we're inundated with those calls. It's not gonna be the case anymore. So we'll be taking all those calls direct.
You get all those calls, how's that gonna be easier? How's it supposed to help?
It's not easy.
It's not.
We'll have more
That's-
people.
that's-
It'll be easier with more people.
That's one of the main reasons. I mean, obviously, we needed staff to begin with, but that's another huge support.
And are they providing the new software and hardware for this?
They are.
They are?
They are,
Oh, that's a welcome relief. I thought we'd have to,
No.
state mandate, we pay for it usually, so.
right.
And I
When does
think
that go into-
other people don't realize either.
Sometime in fiscal year 17, they don't have the dates pinpointed yet. They have a few
Which means
pilot sites
fiscal
right
year
now.
18.
Exactly, it was supposed to be
Yeah.
15.
When you don't have a date.
Exactly.
That's
If
a
I
good
understand
thing.
this, you get 10
It's a good
calls on
thing.
an accident, you're gonna get all 10 of them before the state police would filter the ones,
If
knowing
they're
all it's
through
the
your cell
same one.
phone.
Right, if there was, if the caller had additional pertinent information to pass along, there was another report of injury, or they had something crucial to relay, they would then forward that call to us. But they also understand and recognize the stress that it puts on our department as well.
So,
I called 911 for a bike accident, and they said, "Is this in East Hampton?" And I said, "Yes." Your guys are already notified. So.
Right,
Which-
perfect.
which
so
was
now they
great.
don't do that, they just send it, the
They're
new
not going
system,
to.
they'll just send it right to East
Now
Hampton.
they're still doing that, but in the future. they
When-
will not.
But in the future, they get the call, and they see it's East Hampton, they direct it right to you. We don't even talk to the state police, it just goes right to,
Right.
because they can locate, what if your GPS is off on your phone? How do they know where it is?
Towers.
Yeah, we have cellular towers.
All right.
And with the cell phone technology, just to give you a brief explanation, all the newer cell phones, we can pinpoint your location to the nearest visible address using latitude and longitude.
It's a little scary.
So if you commit a crime, don't think you're gonna get away
Don't
with
call
it.
911.
Shut it off.
Don't call anything.
Leave it over there.
Exactly.
And I don't think people realize when they call the station, they think they're getting the police department. They're getting dispatch.
Well, they're getting, I know I got the state police when I made a call.
No, I mean,
asked for
when you
East
call,
Hampton.
when you, even here, when you call 52712, 1212, or if you do 911 from your landline, it goes right to here, it goes to dispatch. People think, well, I talked to the police department. You didn't talk to the police department, that's dispatch.
I'm aware of that, but I guess a lot of people aren't.
Most, people tell me all the time, they talk to the police, like, you didn't.
Right,
That was,
exactly.
Lauren.
Well, we
dispatch.
consider Lauren's office police and fire, so.
She
It's
would
not
like to be-
totally wrong.
She would love to fall under public safety. Unfortunately, they do not qualify for that category. She would love that.
Why?
And
It says public
dispatchers,
safety dispatch, what do you mean by that?
they're not qualified for, not related at all, and I don't want to really get off the
I-
subject, but
sorry.
they're not, like, for the same retirement that public safety has. So
Oh,
you'll see a
okay.
large push for dispatch, because what they're actually called is civilian dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
And they would love to be under, because they're in public safety, they
yeah.
would love to fall under the public safety category for the state, so that they would, or the cities and towns, so that their retirement would be closer to what the police and fire get. They get their retirement, sorry, Lauren, is like mine.
That's okay. That's what it is.
Are you in a union?
No, we are not.
No, she's also pay plan. Again, sorry, Lauren.
Well, yeah.
Do you guys have training in crisis management, the whole bit? Like if someone calls you and I want to kill myself, is that something you guys are trained to handle?
Everything. Our minimum training for new hires, 84 hours state mandated, plus another 300 or so in-house. So we're looking at 300 to 400 hours of training
Before they even get to the phone.
before they answer a 911 call. We may have them answering administrative lines to try to get a feel for it, but there's always somebody there right by their side to train. And all of our, everybody who trains is certified communications training officer.
Doesn't sound like civilian dispatch to me.
No.
Okay,
So when that
anything
bill
else?
hits the floor,
Do you have anything else you want to bring forward, or you guys have any questions?
she's an exemplary employee,
Well, thank you.
without a doubt. I don't know
Appreciate
what we would have done without Lauren over these years.
So those first couple of lines, I assume that was the shifting of overtime and salaries with the new person. That's why you budgeted less for overtime. And
Right.
You
we're
requested
hoping-
27,
we're
but
hoping
you
to
didn't know you were going to get a new
add
person
and-
when you asked?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Good. I like the fact that we don't pay overtime and we hire more people. Fantastic.
Well, we had we actually had a problem with overtime. We had a problem with, people like Lauren not being able to take time off, and that's where Jane and Lauren worked together as far as how can we schedule and getting the specials to actually have, the on-call, to actually have hours so that we can keep them versus training them and then losing them to other communities that are ready to hire.
Because our pool used to be on call only.
Mhm, right.
But Lauren would go through, we'd send them, pay for all the training,
Mhm.
do all of the in-house training, and then they'd get a job that gave them guaranteed hours,
Right.
then they're gone.
Or full-time.
Well, and you can't blame them
Right.
for that.
Right.
You can't blame them at all.
No.
So that was one of the other things that we instituted. We talked about that over a year ago. Like I said, well, it's not working for a reason. I know if I needed a full-time job, or permanent hours. On-call is wonderful, but it usually means you're working somewhere else full-time. So whatever comes through first, of course you're gonna take it. So we switched the way we do things, and that was step one, and now this is step two, actually adding staff in crucial times, which, you know, unfortunately, we can't do more.
What's your turnover rate?
Let's see here, we have one dispatcher who's been there about 15 years or so. We tend to lose them, some of the newer dispatchers, because oftentimes they get stuck working the overnights. Nobody wants to work the overnight shift, or crazy hours, 11 PM to 7 AM. I have another
Oh,
dispatcher.
these new youngsters.
I know.
I had to work the night shift.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to pay their dues.
You do your time.
Yeah,
You do your
exactly.
time.
A lot of the young dispatchers also go into dispatch, but we find it in the interviews all the time. It's, what's your career goal? I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a police officer.
Right.
So this is just a stopover.
They're just waiting. It's an employment until they get into where they really want to be.
Can't
I
blame
think of
them
it
for
as a
that
career,
either.
but a lot of people see it as a stepping stone,
Right.
which makes total sense.
Well, you're really good at it. But I also think that by changing the way we did the on-call,
Yeah.
to give them hours, will really make a difference where, and that is the pool that we hire from.
Yeah.
So again, it works for both of us.
Good.
Okay.
Any other questions for Lauren? Okay, Joe, you all set? Okay, thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Have a
We're
good
going
night.
to
Thank you so
fire
much.
department.
I'll come down there.
You don't have to. I see you there.
What was the score? Was it over? Oh,
Thank you.
no.
Thank you.
I don't want to.
Good night.
Doesn't look good.
There was no joy in Mudville.
Yeah.
They're still
I'm
playing.
glad I'm glad I left on a high note. When she
Could be
did
worse.
100 strikeouts.
I heard, yeah.
So that's
Oh,
when
she
I
got
left.
it. Oh, good.
1,316,000, is that a new person, or is that just increases?
That's just what we have.
Contracts really increases?
Okay, and what, I'll just, you can take over, Chief, but I'm pretty sure that you remember what we did, and the chief has already sent this out a while ago, is an application through the federal government for a firefighter. And I've been, sending letters to support to any, to any of our US senators, representatives, anything in support of our grant. We are extremely hopeful that we will get it, and if we do not, there will be a transfer that will go before the city council to put in a person. So there will be a person in the fire department, and I think the chief trusts me on that one.
Okay, so that's not in the budget, obviously, we're getting.
It's not in the budget because of the fact that we were thinking very positively that we will get those federal funds. And that would be for 3 years, chief?
Yes. And then we have to fund the person out of our budget, and you're.
After 3 years.
And you're confident you're not gonna lay this guy off?
It would never be our intent to
Of
hire
course not.
anybody with the intentions of laying off, but without a crystal ball, knowing what's in the future. But we're trying to add to the staff. We're
But that's a good.
This is the
that's-
beginning.
It's a good way, because we're adding in other departments this way, maybe in 3 years, we won't have a problem.
It would be great for us because 3 years we wouldn't have to pay for it. But, if that happens, we're extremely hopeful and excited, but if it doesn't, there will be a transfer going in front of the city council to put on a firefighter, and the chief's well
Will
aware of
anyone
it.
get, if that comes through, does someone get promoted?
No,
You
this
won't?
is just filling a vacancy on the bottom.
Okay.
And the other reason you can't do that, when I submit the grant, the city is agreeing that this grant will not supplant funds. So if the salary for this firefighter that we're gonna hire was put in the budget, and we get the grant,
You can't take money out of the
can't
budget.
cut that salary out of the budget. So we're tying up tax money for nothing.
So it has to be an additional person.
Right.
You can't
So we're
use it.
adding staff with the grant, but if the mayor funded that position, I'm no longer adding staff, and we're supplanting with the federal money, so it's a catch-22.
Okay.
And as I recall, with the supplemental we just approved for overtime, you're bringing people back that were in, that, because they were injured or retirees. Therefore, I'm seeing the retirement budget is only up 3,000. We had to spend 368 this year, I'm sorry, the overtime pay. So we're happy that that might be in more control now, because you're getting more personnel.
It's a plan that we've been working on over
I
the
love
last
it.
year.
I just think overtime is too bad. I mean, if you're gonna spend that kind of money on overtime every year, might as well hire somebody, if you're gonna spend it, but you don't
But
know.
when it's injuries,
Yeah,
and you-
injuries and.
You can't predict that.
Right,
yeah.
right.
It was a
And
rough year.
when you look at the total cost of an employee, overtime's probably cheaper, unfortunately, by the time you factor in benefits.
I don't have any other questions on this.
How soon will you know about the grant?
September, October timeframe. The federal government, they still haven't awarded the equipment grants that the deadline was in December. They still haven't finished. It's the same people that do the personnel ones, so they're, if we get notified by September, it would be fast.
There's a new item here for miscellaneous professional and technical services. What's that?
I include that in the narratives that I sent out. Right now, the state allows fire departments to issue non-criminal citations for fire code violations. East Hampton participates in it. One of the requirements is you have to have a hearing officer as part of an appeal process. East Hampton, Northampton, and Amherst share the cost of that hearings officer. In years past, we've paid the fee for the hearings officer out of the ticket fund. However, we don't write enough tickets to sustain that. I think that account is pretty close to zero right now. It can only be used for fire prevention activities. So this year, we did not have enough money to pay that out of the ticket fund. So we moved it over into the budget in hopes that, you know, maybe someday that account will get up where we can pay the salary back out of there.
What tickets do you guys issue?
Any fire code violations, we can issue.
Burning?
Parking in the fire lane, not having working smoke detectors, and it's a sliding scale that goes from $100 first offense, $500 second offense, $1,000 the second or third offense.
Is that pretty much for like public housing or apartments or something where you see
Anything.
smoke?
We can-
You inspect businesses all the time for that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So if they
it's-
don't have proper extinguishers and stuff, you could fine them?
Yeah.
Yeah, even a private residence, right?
Yeah, if normally like, a private residence, the only thing you can get them for is not having smoke or carbon monoxide detectors, but we don't usually catch that until it's sale and transfer. But it's a tool, multifamily, we use it more, for problem landlords that neglect smoke detectors. If it's somebody who constantly, you know, every 6 months, the detectors are dead, and most landlords don't really care, well, you give them a $500 citation per smoke detector, it gets their attention.
Good idea. Okay, anything else?
Well, there's one thing that, you know, maybe the chief would like to talk about also, chief, the clerical, the hours that were, the reason we've actually added a little bit of
Oh,
hours in
yeah,
that.
I saw that.
Yes.
Forgot to ask about that.
Just to give you a little history, that up through probably 1995, the fire department had a full-time clerk, the title was called, and we had a part-time ambulance billing coordinator. That eventually was cut all the way down to just one 18-hour principal clerk in the fire station. The position a couple of years ago was brought, 2 hours were given back. My administrative assistant does payroll, does billing, exports all the ambulance bills to the company that does the billing, does all the fire prevention filing and scheduling. Trying to shift more of the administrative burden from Captain Henneman and fire prevention and myself to the administrative assistant. One that gets us every time, if you're selling a house that ever had any record of an underground storage tank, banks want to know before they'll finance it. We have records, but they're all prior to 1996 and they're paper. I just did one the other day for a residence on Main Street. It was 6.5 hours in the basement looking through records for an underground storage tank when it was removed. So we're gonna shift some of that, and we're increasing her from 20 to 25 hours a week.
Does she supplement that, working, I don't know if it's her, another department or anything?
Yes, she's a couple hours.
She works out
in the building inspector's office.
Building inspector, right, okay.
Right, and the other part of that too was that would free up our captain so
Yep.
that he could concentrate on the 3+ family dwellings with the building inspector, building
Sure.
commissioner. So it's twofold, it's to free him up, you know, take administrative duties off him, put him on the clerical, and let him get out there and do things that we feel are the chief feels that are critical safety.
And another key piece she'll be adding, every ambulance call we do, we have a quality assurance committee that has to go through it to make sure we're keeping the state happy. These same people go through and make sure that person's name is right, date of birth, social security number. Otherwise, the insurance companies like to hold up payment. The problem is those people are doing that on overtime. So we're gonna shift that to Brenda as part of her additional 5 hours, because she has to look at every ambulance report anyways before it goes out to the insurance company. So it just makes sense as part of the workflow that she sees them and sends them out. So it's gonna reduce the little bit we have in ambulance overtime for, I don't even remember what we call that line item. Non-emergency, I think we call it. And it'll shift the work to her, because she's already looking at every ambulance report anyways.
Good.
So a full-time position that was once 35 hours dropped down to 18 hours. Then finally, maybe 2 years ago, went up to 20 hours.
Right. I
And now
remember
it'll go up to, did we say 24, 25?
25.
25. So it's 5 hours, getting there.
Yeah.
It is. Thank you. I have nothing else on fire. We can move to ambulance unless.
Just a quick question, the new grant, new hire, that will still be a civil service position?
Yes.
Any chance we'd get out of civil service ever?
From what I'm hearing from the Baker administration, they'd love to see civil service gone.
Right, there's a lot.
Well, that's impressive.
Because right now, they rely solely on user fees, which is exams. So if you wanted to become a firefighter or a police officer today, civil service, the entrance exam is $250 every 2 years.
Now, who decides on that? How would that get away? The legislature?
Yeah, it would have to be through
Yes.
legislature.
There's a lot of talk at the, in the legislature about that.
Because I
And-
like how the police department's able to hire right out of their pool, and
Right.
and you could do that. It would be,
We do it now, but it just, civil
It
service is
takes a
so
long
archaic and
time.
slow.
It's
And
archaic.
that part is, I have the bodies,
Mhm.
we know the bodies, they're part of our call force, which is also civil service, but there's one person who takes care of all the fire departments in communities A through F. I don't know how many that is, but I know it's, if I email her with a question.
probably over 100.
Probably quite a few. I can pretty much guarantee it's gonna be 3 to 4 days before I get a reply.
But how long does it take you to get a list? When you request a list?
If I go to hire, whether it's call
Mhm.
firefighters or new one, it's all electronic now, to streamline the process.
Mhm.
It still takes me 2 to 3 weeks to get a list approved.
Just a list.
Oh, my God. Okay, sorry I asked. Ambulance. EMS incentive, explain that one again?
That's the
Is that
money.
training?
No, that's an
Education?
incentive to advance beyond, the basic EMTs get 9% of their base pay. EMT intermediates are 16, although they're pretty much gone because the state did away with them. And then paramedics get 21% of their base
So
pay.
it is, if you don't go up the rank to
Right.
paramedic,
If you
you're
want to
gonna have,
advance, you get more pay.
you get more pay. So the incentive is there to become a, we have more paramedics now, don't we, than EMT?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And the council's favorite one with coastal medical billing.
Yeah, but
Our
that's-
revenues are up, but the finance director was able to renegotiate the contract with coastal, and we dropped what percentage we're paying them. So we're not paying them as much, but we're taking in a lot more revenue.
She made them an offer, they couldn't.
No, she did a request for proposals,
Great,
and luckily, they looked at the
nice.
What does coastal do? What's this?
billing.
Bill, oh, that's.
Yeah.
They bill the insurance companies.
They take care of all the, calls from the insured,
Huge.
all that. It takes a huge burden.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Basically, that was a position before.
Right.
And the killer with that is, to be able to bill Medicaid and Medicare, you need to have their program, their software.
Mm.
When we did away with the ambulance billing clerk and went to coastal,
Mhm.
it was right when we would have had an upgrade, and it was $11,000 just for the software to be able to bill Medicare, who's only gonna give you 50% of your bill anyway, so.
Mhm.
Chief Morris, that's the one that made that move, and I think it takes a ton of work off of us.
That was part of the reason for the position going from 35 to 20 at the time.
So, anything else on ambulance, guys, counselors? I think that deals with fire, everything else, is this under you, building inspector, that's just under the
Nope.
mayor, right? Okay, building
Is
inspector,
that good for the chief?
Should be.
can you be here in the
Thank you.
first?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you won.
No, all they did, they were losing 9-6 in the 7th inning.
It's softball.
I wasn't there, that's why.
They won?
Yes.
All right.
I wasn't there.
What was the final?
10 to
9?
9. Because they were
Wow.
losing 9-6.
All right.
That's very
Is it a home
exciting.
game?
Yes.
Walk-off.
Last game?
Last regular season game, the tournament starts in 2 weeks, but that's gonna be ugly.
Well, at least they're in it.
That's awesome.
And they won their league title, so that's,
That's good. All right.
Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Building inspector, this looks pretty much,
This is pretty level funded.
the
Obviously, there
clerical
were,
position, oh no, it's the same.
obviously, there were
for a high
requests,
one.
right, there were requests for additional hours, additional staffing, additional things,
Mm.
but unfortunately, those don't fall into the priorities that,
Absolutely, that's
you
right.
know,
I understand.
can only do so much.
Mhm.
And the car, we have a car plan now.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Melissa.
We have a-
Also, as you remember,
We put a
that
quick-
we have the recycled vehicles, so that's part of when you look at the, the car allowance we actually had eliminated, but there's no need for it anyway. Well, one of the things, we had eliminated it before and made him use mileage, and also was using one of our vehicles was available. He requested his car allowance be put back, and they have a vehicle specifically for the building commissioner now, so there will be.
They didn't have,
He actually had the option to use one of our
right, but
vehicles.
when he put this in, he didn't have that car yet?
He had the option to get paid by mileage or to use one of our vehicles, which he chose not to, and he chose, he wanted the car allowance, which I had eliminated in, as you can see, in the 16 budget. So I would rather pay mileage than a car allowance because it's itemized.
Yeah.
And I know it's not always very popular.
But now he uses a car that we've given
So
him.
now, just within the last maybe
A month?
4 or 5 weeks, through the DPW recycled, what was the last on the list came to both our assessor's office. We had 2 vehicles, our assessor's office and our building commissioner. So they have that vehicle just for them. So there is no need for car allowance and hopefully even the mileage, I'm hoping will, we level funded it, but and obviously because we did it at a different time, before we had the vehicles. So I'm hoping that would go down a little bit.
It's not the truck with the stop sign for the floor, is it?
No, that unfortunately, but that couldn't be recycled, that couldn't get inspected.
Yeah, I remember we decided to get
Right.
rid of that because
Yep.
it wouldn't
that-
pass muster with the state.
Remember, it was not only the floor, the dashboard didn't work, meaning nothing. Mileage, lights, nada. So once that was reported to
That's
me,
funny.
that came off the road.
Gas inspector, that's pretty much level funded.
We have a wonderful gas and plumbing inspector. He does both.
Mhm.
And he does everything
It used
himself.
to be Tommy Murphy, but
It
who is
used to be
now?
for many years.
Yeah, I
and-
know, he retired.
And he retired, and we are extraordinarily lucky to get another person with the same temperament, just does his job. I do not receive any complaints, and I am hopefully that he will do that and actually, he had just retired. So I'm hoping he will do this for many, many years, till we all retire.
Okay.
He's very good at it.
Any
And then you could
questions?
see it's, very, minimal changes.
Mm-hmm.
Are they employees or
No,
are they consultants?
stipends.
Okay.
They're paid
Stipends.
monthly.
Right.
Sealer of weights,
So,
same.
right, so, that is the strangest position. That is the only civil service position here that I know of. When that person no longer does that position, we're still, it's the same person, I think, for probably, since the 70s, I was gonna say 80 years, since the 70s.
How old
But
is he?
when,
Is that the
But when-
sticker they put on gas
yes,
tanks?
exactly.
The gas
But when that
station.
person retires, that will no longer be a civil service position. It'll be, but again, it's the same thing. It's a stipend position, but that's exactly what he does. The
Make sure that
the
works.
measure of the tanks, and you'll see the little stickers here and there.
Mhm.
And the wire inspector, same thing. These are stipend positions.
Mhm.
Again, they're stipend positions, which means it's a huge advantage to the city. They receive zero benefits. They get a flat amount, which as you can see is minimal a
Minimal
month.
amount.
And we are extremely lucky to
And they're
have
happy.
this group do this.
Animal control, isn't it?
We
This guy McCoy,
outsource
do
that.
we pay him for that?
What we did, well, outsource that, sorry, the wrong word. What we did is we regionalized that, and you
Yeah, I
can see
know.
the difference in the savings.
Yes,
And this
yes.
is a whole year of it, and it has worked extremely well, because we have people that are doing what they do. They have 3 animal control officers in Westfield. And we've pretty much streamlined it. They're really good at what they do. They're highly trained. Most of them have worked for shelters before that, like, you know, O'Connor and Dakin. So we do not want to be in the business of kenneling dogs, but they do it, and they do it really well. As a matter of fact, at the first, I know you'll remember, but when Melissa and I went to visit, because we weren't going to do anything till we visited the facility, and we both almost left with a dog. And Melissa was gonna probably head there if it wasn't for the city council president providing her with one.
That's what he
But
does. It's either that or
It's a
a goat.
wonderful facility. It's,
Was it a goat or a dog?
I couldn't do it without James,
Yeah.
recruiter.
Yes, if you need any of the animals, you can go through.
So if
Jay.
anyone in town loses their dog, it's
Yes.
likely in Westfield that they're.
Well,
Actually, it's likely at next
Well,
door.
the way it works, and
The
like
police
animal
department has
control
to deal
falls
with
under
it
the
first.
police department, but the way it works, like our police are so hands-on with everything, that if the dog has a tag, that's his phone call home, they'll just call him. You know, if you've got your dog, if you've got your license on your dog's neck, that's his phone call home.
Okay.
So, but if they can't find anybody and it's been a day, then they'll call, you know, Westfield, and they'll come and get them, or they'll even deliver them.
Do they have a place to put them over there?
What they do, and
Or
they,
do they
I mean,
take
they
'em
have
home?
food, and they have food, and, you know, obviously they're pampered. They ride in the cruisers when they'll pick them up, get them in the cruiser, but they're extremely helpful. And when somebody calls dispatch, so that's where you would call if you know, lost your animal or you have an animal complaint, and it's a police supervisor that makes the call, whether we call somebody, you know, whether we call Westfield or how it goes.
Okay.
So, but I am very happy with the process, and I just signed the contract for another, you know, for another
We
year.
saved $7,000
Yeah.
since 2015.
And I believe it's gonna be more than that. Now, don't forget, it's not a benefited position also. So there's a lot of savings, which
Yeah.
the other position was. But we have basically, it's, you know, the billing comes out of my office, and I think it's extremely reasonable. And I have had like slim to no complaints. And the complaints were not really complaints, just kind of where's your animal control officer, just kind of getting used to the change. So everybody's very happy with that.
Does
So
line
that-
518 go to Sam? Is that Sam?
Where are we?
518, 5118. First line,
Sam.
animal inspection.
Yes, the animal inspector.
She's, from
And
Parks
as you
and
know,
Rec.
and they probably don't know that your city council president, Joseph McCoy,
Still am.
was our animal inspector, and he did the barns, and also like the animal inspector is different than the animal control officer. So if there's a call like a cat bites, dog bites, Joe is handling them all. And unfortunately for
Sometimes at his
him,
house.
as by
Can't
being a
pay
city,
him.
by being you know, a member of the city council, he was not eligible for any to receive any income. So what we did is
Yeah, but you love
Joe,
animals, Joe.
but he does, and
Now
obviously he's
Stan
really
does
good at it.
So the money comes into the house.
So what Joe has also offered to do is to stay on as the inspect the barn animals. So now we have, and this is a yearly appointment, and it ends up being, you know, send it to the state, and it comes back appointed. So Joe is our inspector for the barn animals, and we have an animal inspector for the bite calls, and that's where the $1,000 is. So thank you for bringing that up, Joe. And actually, he's offered to show her when you do your inspections, she can tag along. So we're extremely lucky on that.
So that concludes
Very
public
altruistic.
safety, unless there's anything else, counselors? So I'll make a motion that we recommend to the full city council, the finance committee recommend to the full city council that we accept the public safety department budget of $5,203,276.63 as recommended by the mayor.
Second.
Did I give the right amount there? Melissa?
Where were you?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What really matters is when they give me the actual motions, because there's all kinds of things we have to say. Okay, general government, section 1. This is all pretty much the mayor. City council, thank you for funding it as requested. You leaving, Joe? You going
I'm gonna
upstairs?
see how classic lights go.
All right, is it upstairs or downstairs?
I don't know.
It was downstairs in B, but maybe if it got crowded, they moved it up.
If it's
I probably would've
upstairs-
heard more
Would you
people
let us
going
know,
up and down.
Joe?
Yeah,
Well, if we don't see you, well, then we'll figure it's downstairs. City council, thank you for funding that, which means the clerical's up a little bit, like we asked for.
Right.
And I think the rest of the budget was,
And it's, if you don't mind, I would like to just make a comment on that. I obviously appreciate the services of your city council clerk as our city clerk, but there have been increases in a different way. I have no problems with what she's asked for, and obviously, as you can see, we've decided to fund them, but because she is able to do all her minutes and all her agendas on city clerk time, she has received increases through COLAs. So her, her hourly wage is what she, she gets paid during the day to do that. So I just don't want you to think that we've been neglecting.
oh no, we never thought you did.
Okay.
It was just that we hadn't given her a raise in a long time.
Right.
Just purely from the council's point of view.
Yep.
We know that, and if she wasn't well treated, she wouldn't be here as long as she is. So I
Right.
think she loves it here, and we love her. That's one of the reasons.
But she's
we're here.
able to do all of the city council work on her city clerk time. It is not outside of
Extra.
work hours.
Mhm.
That's good.
Just something that I think you would like to know,
Yeah,
if you didn't
absolutely.
know already.
That's good. We don't want her to work too.
All right, so city council's okay, we all know about that.
Yep.
Mayor's office. Salary 75, because of the council last year. Clerical's up, is that a step increase?
Well, actually, yes, it's a step, but if you'll notice what's requested, the reason there's a difference between what's requested and what's recommended is because my assistant gives back 2 weeks of pay a year. This is the second year, which, one of these years it's gonna look like she got a big increase. But what it does is she has decided that, to, obviously for money savings for the city, but, for herself, she'll take 2 weeks vacation unpaid.
Unpaid.
In days, it's not 2 weeks
Does
straight
she
or
get
whatever.
vacation otherwise?
Yes, she's eligible for vacation otherwise, but what she does is she takes 2 weeks' pay off her salary and has, in other words,
She'd rather have
8
the days.
no-pay days.
She'd rather have that
Yeah.
and help.
Which to me
helps.
is a win-win. It's hard for me when she's not here, but I think it's a win-win for the
Sure.
city, and I think it's,
awesome.
very impressive.
I think it's cool, because I called her the other day and she answered the phone. All right, so everything else is pretty much level funded.
Yeah, nothing exciting.
Anything else, Karen, you want to bring up about the mayor's budget?
No, it's all pretty cut and dried there. Nothing
Licensing
exciting.
board, we have a clerk.
No, that is also my assistant,
She
and.
does, I was wondering who did it, Nikki does it?
Yes, she does,
Okay.
and we had decided a long time ago, that was one of the changes we made after me. I was a licensing board clerk for 19 years, and I was not allowed to do any of this on my work time. So what we decided is a long time ago that, so we get calls all the time, so it needs to be out of an office. It can't be a clerk that shows up at a meeting once a month. So it became part of the job description for my assistant, kind of funny, but, and she only, as you can see, the prices have gone down minimal because she is also allowed, if she has time, to, do some of the things during her workday, but the only thing she charges for is above and beyond.
Going to the meetings.
Yes, so, and that is charged by the hour, so
Okay.
that's it. So that budget has really
It's been
dropped a lot.
pretty stable for a while.
It's dropped a lot,
Mhm.
and that's by another one of the changes we made, as the positions change or people leave, so that was important to us to have the stability in the office.
Okay.
And thankfully, the new person wants to do it.
City auditor. Just curious about the assistant salary going down to 34 from 43. Is
Right,
there a
we
new
had-
assistant? Is
yes,
that it?
yes,
Oh,
as
I didn't
you
realize
know,
we did.
What you'll remember that you had a transfer to pay out the assistant auditor.
Right.
Probably like within the last month, that
I
you
remember.
just finally had your,
Retired or something?
yes, she retired after many years, so obviously, she was at the end of her step, at the end of her.
So we have an entry-level position.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And she has started, so, and you'll remember me saying that the last day of payout was a Monday for the assistant auditor that retired, and we had somebody in that position the following Tuesday,
Right,
the very
yes.
next day.
Excellent.
And so she's been here 2 weeks, Jane, and excellent position. She's doing an excellent job. So that's probably, you're gonna see that's gonna come before the council, because you appoint the auditor, and the auditor appoints her assistant, but also is approved by the
So
city
we have to
council.
appoint her yet?
So you have to approve the auditor's appointment of her, and that'll be on your next agenda.
Okay, cool.
Okay?
All
So you'll
right.
notice that.
Very cool.
The rest of it is pretty much same old,
Audit,
same old.
Audit financial, telephone expense, that's standard. Nothing new there. Assessors. We shifted some money to the administrative assistant, up to 29. Is that more hours?
Okay, what we did we had a lot of changes in the assessor's office.
Yeah.
What we had, and this is one of our reorganizations, and different things that allow us, we reorganize in one department, and we're able to add in another. So this is a department that had a full-time position and a part-time position. And under your new assessor, she has a great management style, has reorganized it, and what we have is instead of a full and a part-time, instead of 1.5 positions, we went down to a half. And it's working fine, but we're increasing some of the hours so that she can pick up more things. And actually, some of the inspections that are mandated that haven't been happening in the past. So we're extremely.
So we only have 2 people in that office?
Yes, you have your assessor,
Assessor.
and she has a clerical. Before it was 2 clericals, it was 1.5. Now you have getting close to
Three-quarter?
Getting close to 3/4, and it's working.
She's okay with that?
These
She has
are,
enough?
we have worked with her on this,
So
and I
that's what
felt
she-
like, I thought it was very important. She's the department head,
Mhm.
and the way she wanted to staff her department was important, it was important to us.
Oh,
And
good. Great.
she'll meet with HR regularly and myself, and we all agree that she's doing a excellent, superb job, and the staffing that she feels right is for her department is what we've all agreed on.
I'm glad to hear that.
And that has, again, different reorganization, frees up essential funding elsewhere.
Yep.
Is the administrative assistant position a new person, or did it?
Nope, it's our
still-
data
What's his
collector.
name?
So what we had before is we had a full-time clerical and a part-time data.
Mhm.
So the data person, which, what? Oh, right, so the data person is the person, it was reversed 3 times. At one
Yeah.
time, in the
Mark
Memorial
kept
Building.
changing his mind.
Yes, it changed, and that's why what we did before last budget, when we knew somebody new would be coming in, is we just put them both at 20 hours. And if you're a department head coming in, it's up to you to, to organize your office, and she runs it efficiently, and we couldn't be happier.
Okay.
And I told you that as far as this setting of the tax rate this year was the smoothest it's gone in many, many years.
Wow.
Thank
So,
you. Thanks, Dick.
it's
I love
wonderful.
to hear that.
It's wonderful.
Well, you went down from 107,000 to 86,000 in costs and personnel, so that's a good thing.
Yep, and again, that frees us up to provide essential critical personnel elsewhere.
Elsewhere, yeah. So
And
the
they
rest
have
of
a
the budget
vehicle
is-
now too, which was really crucial. They were trying to share vehicles or mileage, so that's crucial, so we're hoping that'll help there too, which they didn't have when we put forth this.
Okay.
We were
Yeah,
hoping for
They
it,
have a
but.
vehicle supply budget now, they didn't have
Right, right.
one. Okay.
Normally, any of the vehicles like that were used by the building commissioner or the assessors, I paid out of my budget.
Okay. Assessors, we're not in a reval, so we don't have vision or anything this year. The vision upgrade was software we did a few years ago, FY14 or something, right, as I recall. But anyway, total for the assessors is down 20,000, 24,000, that's great.
And again, this is with the, working with the assessor itself. These are not cuts that we have mandated.
Sure.
It's something that we started, but it was really a reorganization.
Okay. Treasurer's office,
God bless you there.
I'm just curious, why don't we say finance director, why do we say treasurer?
Because it's the treasurer's office.
Okay, I don't know, just choose a finance director. And we added a clerk last year.
That was another reorganization, and Melissa would be happy to tell you, to tell you that.
Is it working well? I remember adding.
Well, the point was, what that did also, that was twofold, in case you don't know. The school had a payroll clerk, and Melissa had payroll out of her office. So Melissa had one full-time staff, which is the assistant treasurer. And so by taking on, Melissa wanted to streamline the payroll and try to get backups for both, so that both people would be trained to back each other up where they can actually take time off when it's a pay week. So that freed up funding in the school, which allowed
A new business.
it allowed us to have a full-time director of school business services, which has been
Yes.
a huge win.
Very
So,
good.
but Melissa can talk to you about, all of that.
I have no questions, I was just remembering that.
Mhm.
Do you have any questions? Okay. The budget, the rest of the budget is pretty much level funded. Good. Anything you want to bring up, Melissa, at all? Okay?
I just, why was the tax title taking 13,000 and now we're budgeting for 4,000?
Typically, we don't spend a whole lot, but we're trying to clean up I had 2 bad tax titles last year that, you can ignore them, or you can go after them, and that's expensive, and ultimately, if they come and clean up their back taxes, they pay all those legal fees back to us, but it comes into the general fund.
Okay.
And so I had asked earlier this year for a transfer to deal with those 2 tax titles that sort of drained my supplies, and then try and clean up some old tax title takings that had been done. We need to auction, but there's been a lot of work with the land court to clean those up in order to get them in a position to auction them off and just be free of it altogether and put them back on the tax.
And that's mostly legal fees, court costs?
It's all legal fees.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. But we brought in a lot by getting those tax titles. The general fund got some back taxes, right?
Yep, so,
So it pays for itself, in a sense.
it does over time. Some tax titles, especially the ones that, don't pay off, like with the homeowner abandons them, you don't necessarily make money on them, but if you can finally get them back on the tax rolls, then ultimately that's a better situation.
Okay.
And I'm sure you're aware, working with land court is extremely slow, so the legal fees can be extremely costly.
I'm dropping all the way down to computer unless the other counselors have anything.
That's fine.
That's
Full-time
another
with the-
department that it seems like we've restructured every department in the last 3 years. That's another department. We eliminated a position in there, as you can see.
Part-time.
And it was a position that was not providing the services, the essential services that we needed. That's something else that in the future, I have, some ideas of where I'd like to go with that. I think a shared services with the school would really benefit us on that. When we, again, I can't bring in everything the same year, but, I think that would really be beneficial.
Mhm.
The relationship we have now, like I told you, we're just one city versus school and city, and the relationship that our computer, our IT person has with the school, they work back and forth together, and so I would love at some point in time to share maybe a part-time person there.
Benefit both of them. Sure.
Yes, So that's, you know, obviously they, you know, that's something in the future. Sorry it didn't get in there this year, it's just not doable yet.
Well, he didn't ask for it either, so it's fine.
Why is the salary kind of lower? Is it the same person for all these years?
It's actually higher than the original. I think there must have been some
I
overtime or
think that
something.
there's,
See, it's 64,551.
I think that there were days in last year and there are not days in.
Right, didn't we have the?
Oh.
Didn't we have a leap year last
We had
year?
a year plus
Oh.
2 days. Was it a year plus 2?
And all of us paid plan people are, because the extra days of Friday this
Mhm.
year, any of us who work Monday through Thursday, it's exactly 52
Right.
weeks this year, so we're saving a little.
Okay.
But the
I
other
remember that.
departments that are, you know,
Right.
like police and public safety, they're 7 days.
5
Yeah.
days.
Okay.
Okay.
We're still saving money on the 4-dayers.
The actual total on computer is only up 6,000 from last year, and that's mostly software costs, I think.
Right.
Okay. Moving on to collector of taxes, pretty much level funded.
Right. Again, we hope our tax collector stays here for another 20 years. That
I
office is
don't-
another office that is fine-tuned, works well with every other
She's a
office.
doll.
They just get their stuff done.
Moving on to city attorney, I find it great that 23 is gonna pay for, I guess we haven't asked Jack to do too much for us.
Well, actually.
Beyond what, well, 215, we had 16, then we went up to 23, but you decided to keep it the same.
You know, and the only thing I can estimate that on is what we spend this year.
Mhm.
As you've all worked with him,
Oh, yeah,
you
he's great.
know how great it is to have a city attorney like that. His fees compared to, you know, a typical attorney's fees, which me and Gary will be telling you soon, are, you know, it's past reasonable. So I'm hoping that that we're good there.
Plus, he's really
it's one-
experienced in city attorney work.
Well, he used to, how long was he on the zoning board?
Right,
You know,
and
so.
he works for more
he's-
than one community.
He's really good at what he is, but again, that's something that we need to be careful, that, you know, nobody uses them on my end without my approval, and, you know, he's just not open, he's obviously not open to the public, but he's not open to anybody to call for questions. It
do
goes through the
have-
city council president, if you know, any of you.
We
need
do
it.
have, it's not a rule, but we do have a
Mhm.
request that any committee that
Mhm.
needs attorney work go through Joe first.
Yep, they're not to, and it needs to be a council question, not a counselor question.
It's usually
So-
ordinance that needs it more than anything.
Right, but he is extremely knowledgeable with municipal law, and it's, again, we've been really lucky with the city attorney. Since I've been here, this is our third city attorney, and each one was, as you know, one was,
Dave
is now a
Sullivan.
judge, and the other, is our DA. So we have qualified, we have a.
Jack has no ambition, so we're okay.
So, we're really
I
lucky.
didn't mean that, Jack.
And when you look at the periodicals, all that is a Mass General laws. That's the only periodicals we keep here, and they're still used here, and we keep them up.
Okay. Personnel Department. Glad to see she's not a volunteer. Anything you want to bring up about it, Jane? It looks pretty much
Do you have-
level
do you want
funded
me to-
too. Little increase, is that step?
So
a step
steps,
increase, or- okay.
Jane's new, so she's not maxed. Sorry, Jane.
But she has room to grow.
Exactly, that's our sell. As you can see, the clerical is maxed. She's been here for, quite a long time, and that's what the longevity is. Again, sorry, Jane.
Okay,
So,
How long have you been here, Jane?
just 2 years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm. Negotiator, we don't have that this year, thank God.
well, what we do is, we put that in a line in the HR budget last year, because that's where it belongs. It doesn't, instead of having it as a freestanding.
I got you, because that's,
Yep.
you hire them for negotiating contracts.
So
Why
again.
it should be in HR.
Right.
Okay.
And that's not always negotiating contracts. You can explain that, Jane. That's when you, what you use. It's not, it's negotiator, but it's not always that.
We have a consultant for,
Mhm.
111F. It's
Which
worked
is?
out wonderfully.
Injured on
That's-
duty.
Injured
that's
on
the
duty.
workers'
For public
comp for
safety.
public safety.
I don't know the numbers, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Public safety does not, in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, does not fall under workers' comp. They fall under chapter 111.
Okay.
We, in the past, have had a number of cases, they were cleared out, but we found the need for the consultant. I found a new consultant that is on retainer, and I have unlimited access to.
Oh.
New
So,
attorneys.
A little more efficiency there.
It's been wonderful working with this
Or,
company.
and grievances, you know, if we have grievances, you know, where we need to, when things come to grievances and, you know, we need.
HR grievances.
Right, legal representation, that's not where we don't use Jack on, you know, labor.
Personnel
So,
stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly, so labor, you know, labor law is a different thing all itself.
Yeah.
And we have an expert that we're very satisfied. How long have we had them? Is it a year now, Jane?
Changed just
Mhm.
over a year for
Mhm.
legal as well. Very well.
City clerk, she's pretty much maxed out right now.
Both of them are max, as you can see, they
They've been there a
both get
while.
longevity, so.
And everything else is level funded. Okay.
And then when you get to elections, I mean, you know how frustrating
It
that this
goes
is
up and down all the
for
time.
Barbara.
Oh my
You know,
God, yeah.
without knowing and the state not giving them notice as to what's happening, so, you know, these are just her best estimates.
We have a major election this year, so.
Right, and if something changes, you know, we have to come back for, you know, additional funding, we will, but.
Well, at least when they decide to reprint the ballots, they paid for it this time.
You can see we increased the, you know, the election positions a little bit, you know, for that particular reason. But other than that, it's certainly not
Okay?
anything.
Conservation Commission is normal. City planner. So, just so you guys know, when you saw Jamie, she's the part-time regular, am I correct? And she's also paid out of CPA, so that's not just her salary there. That's a correct statement, right?
That's right.
Or, Melissa. So, part-time regular, Jamie works for both.
She's
regular
actually
planning.
the assistant planner is her title.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
We don't have a clerk anymore, so it's a two-person office.
Yep.
Good. What's part-time other?
It's a portion of Susan Penn's, she's the CDBG coordinator.
Okay.
And she does, so she's primarily paid from CDBG, but we
Grant.
fund her from the general fund, and then she works on other grant projects. You can't, if you're only paid from CDBG, you can only work on CDBG.
Right.
So that way, if you pay her, she can work on other grants, other than
So we have
community
to
block
pay her
grants.
proportionally to the amount of time she spends separate from CDBG to.
And that might be a good time to bring this up, that they have applied, this is our year that we can apply for CDBG, even though it's extremely, I don't wanna use the word rare, that we'll get funding, but there will come a time where, you know, Susan is another employee that's excellent at what she does, so may have to be completely funded out of the city, because that's an employee we do not wanna lose.
Well, yeah, and grant writing is gonna pay for itself. She's experienced at that.
Yes,
My God.
she's a dedicated employee that is excellent at what she does, and if it comes to funding her, you know, it's one of these times, I'm hoping that we'll receive the grant funds, but you don't know.
Yeah.
They're, you know, they really put everything they had into that application, even knowing that it's a very slim
Well,
chance.
we've been pretty good the last couple of years, we got major grants.
Well, we're in a different, I told you, we're in a different classification now,
Yeah.
which we're in a large group for a small piece of the pie. So it's extremely slim that, you know, we'll get it, but again, they put everything they had into the application, no matter what, they still did it.
City Arts is funded, what's her name, by the way, the new person?
Oh, Jane might want to tell you, I just met her today, Julie. We have a new arts coordinator.
Right, Julie
Closure,
Oro,
S-I-E-R, she said it's like closure. but
and where is she from?
She is from East Hampton, actually, lives in East Hampton.
Oh, good.
And that falls, she is not a department head, that falls underneath the city planner.
Right, we
So-
know that, yeah.
And so we're really excited that she.
Is she still grant funded as well besides this salary?
Yes.
Okay, so that's another position. If the grants run out, we'll be stuck.
Well, what Melissa and I both agree on, as long as they're, you know, what they have requested in many years is to fund her completely, fund, first of all, that position used to be a part-time position. And then it became a full-time position. But they request every year to be funded, you know, 100% by the city. And it's my, you know, obviously my decision, and Melissa feels the same way. As long as there's grant funds out there, we will use that to fund the position. Again, it
I have
frees
no
up
problem
money
with that, as
elsewhere.
long as we have the position.
Right.
How we pay for it doesn't bother me at all.
Right, well, they would like to use the grant funds for other
Something else.
services, but for us, we call that essential services. It funds the position.
Does it change her benefits if she's fully
No.
funded by us or
No,
grant?
she's a full-time employee, and those are, first of all, benefits are 20+. If you work 20 hours, you're benefited. Go ahead, Melissa.
And though
Sorry.
her grant does not pay for her benefits.
Right.
So you guys.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is funded
Well,
by the
we'll
general
get to that ugly budget soon.
Yeah. Okay, city arts, recycling collections, that's not funded.
That got moved, we talked about it.
Yeah, last year.
Last night.
DPW.
Right.
Which pulled it out of there and just put it. in
Which
the
makes
warrant.
sense.
And the planning board gets a little stipend, and they get a clerk, which we pay for.
Right, they don't get a
They don't
stipend,
get a stipend.
they just have the
Oh,
clerk.
no, I'm sorry, that's just a clerk.
Right,
Excuse me.
right. And and actually, those are positions, by the way, those clericals, like that we talked about, where somebody just comes in once a month to do those, you know, to do the minutes in the meeting. Those are extremely hard to fill. Jane was very, very lucky and
Jamie's doing it now,
instrumental
right?
to get, no, Jane doesn't do it. but-
Jamie.
No.
No.
Jamie is zoning.
Oh, zoning, right.
Yeah.
Who's doing it now for planning?
We had a clerical that, you know, we advertised for them, but it's really hard to find somebody. We have an excellent person, because you remember this year at the extra meetings, and that was why we needed a little extra
Right, you asked
money
for
in
it.
there, because of all our extra planning board meetings, because of, you already know what that's because of. But that's difficult. Those positions are really difficult to fund. At one time, all our minute-taking clerks were funded like that, and you know, to get somebody to work one day a month is
Yeah.
not easy.
Exactly.
So we're very happy with the staffing on that.
Okay.
PVPC assessment, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So we pay into that so that we can use their services.
Right. It's actually an invoice, and it's the planning department that processes that.
The zoning board, that's Jamie doing the zoning board clerical.
Right, which you've seen how
Mhm.
extremely,
Yeah, I was there.
yeah.
Is that a meeting by
Paid by the hour for the meeting.
it's an hour, or is it a meeting by meeting amount?
It's
Hourly.
by the
Oops,
meeting.
jeez, that sounded like we were singing over here.
I'm sorry.
No,
It's
no,
okay.
that was me,
Mhm.
but yes.
Okay.
Sorry
I'm
about
down to
that.
building operations, which is, we cut back to one custodial service.
Okay, building operations is, you know, one of my budgets. It's the budget that I use to fund all our building operations, but it's also, we've moved the maintenance of the Council on Aging, the Town Hall, public safety in this building, which is a lot.
A lot.
Now, you've already hit on it, what we did, that was one of the positions that we changed a year ago, again, restructuring. We now, instead of having 2 full-time custodians, we have a full-time custodian and a part-time, non-benefited employee, that it's working wonderfully. It's a huge savings to the city, and, you know, it was something we tried, was hoping it would work out, and it's wonderful. So again, freed up a large amount of funds for
Yeah.
another position.
That's
So this is where, you know, when people ask you about windfalls, you'll see what's happened last year and the year before is preparation for this year.
Excellent.
So, I mean, just to let you know, it wasn't very popular, you know, when I made these decisions last year and the year before. It didn't go, you know.
But you got your
change-
popularity back.
But change is not
Your poll numbers
always,
are up.
change is not always an easy thing, like
No,
Melissa reorganizing her office. especially with payroll, that was not an easy thing. And that's eliminating somebody's position and redoing things, so
Well-
it's not popular when it happens.
No.
You gotta do what
But
you
it's-
have to do.
But
That's-
it, to me, it's just good financial management, so I take the heat. Okay.
So in this budget is all of the costs of running, like the heat and power and all the other things, and I see that's down
Right.
a lot, and that's just a guess on the kilowatt hours.
You know, again, I have to tell you, it is just a guess, even though I'm locked in at electric and I'm locked in at gas, it's usage. If we have a freezing cold winter and a burning hot summer, the usage goes up. So, but you can only, try to manage what without a crystal ball.
That's why we have a reserve fund. I mean,
If-
you don't know.
I would rather do it that way than, come back for
Do you
funds.
go back 5 years and kind of
No,
guesstimate?
because we really use this year, the past year,
Mhm.
because of our rates have changed, so what I've
Oh.
locked in at,
Yeah.
but usage, you don't know. And if you have both a harsh winter and a burning summer, in 1 year, it'll blow you out of the water.
Mhm.
But, we still have limped along, and again, what helps us on these budgets is the allocation for the solar. Goes to all
Oh,
the,
that's
all the different
fantastic.
buildings, and I share that percentage, everywhere. But it's,
Okay.
again, you don't know, and you hope that, you don't lose 3 compressors the same month.
This is a question that I just saw the word pesticides down here.
Yes.
Do we spray?
No. The
Is this-
pesticides are really, it's a lousy name on that line item. What it is if he needs to put down, something for weeds or that. But as you can see, that's another change that I've made over the last 2 years, is actually taking care of our property. You'll notice that it looks neat, it's not everything
The
overgrown.
building operations includes landscape management.
Well, the landscapers, you're looking at her, the 2 of us kind of went out there and, we hired
weeds.
somebody to just bulldoze, and we did the plantings. And the other thing that we have in the works is, we're gonna start using our main door. As soon as, probably after Memorial Day, Jane and I, we bought huge planters. We redid you see the railings, we did the railings, we did the railings out front instead of all those ugly cones. You really have to take pride in your buildings. And to have weeds that at one time were above the DPW and the city clerk's office, I won't tolerate it.
Yeah, that's gross.
So, yeah, it's, to me, it's disrespectful. So those are things that we're working on, and actually the cost probably isn't even $1,000. But the pesticides was always in there, and that's, if he has to go and, get something at, community feed or.
We don't do
or,
any town spraying.
We do not. We used to a long time ago, and we do not.
Okay.
That stopped probably in the, I would say it still happened in '81. So the trucks used to go up and
Yeah.
down the streets and spray. I'm not looking forward to something like that happening again.
Yeah.
But it stopped in the '80s.
Okay.
The early '80s, for a lot of really good reasons.
Yeah.
So that concludes general government. Anything else, councilors, on that? I move that we accept the mayor's recommended funding for general government of $1,631,438.37 to recommend it to the city council for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last one, benefits.
Yeah. You're on your own, Jane. No.
Well, obviously, the only one that I really had to ask about was 32B, but we'll get to that. Let's just do retirement first. And we made some changes this year, so it went up a couple $100,000 in what we contribute, correct? I mean, that's what I'm reading here.
It's based on the actuarial.
Actuarials, right? I actually almost understand that.
So as the staffing ages or comes in younger, the amount that they would contribute changes? Is that what you mean by actuarially?
What do you mean by staffing? Because
Like,
they're not
are
city.
Are you guys contributing to your retirement?
Oh, yes.
So is that what this
Very-
money is?
Very much so.
And then the retirement board manages it.
And they are not city offices.
Correct.
Yes.
So this dollar amount is the amount that you expect all the employees, no, it's not.
So, I wish I had brought this up, so the, many years ago,
A long, long time ago.
someone said, oh my gosh, if the city of East Hampton shut down tomorrow,
Mhm.
we've granted all these benefits, there's not enough money to, pay out
To
all
pay
this
them.
stuff.
Your liability.
Self-funded liability.
So there is so every year, or every 2 years, the investments and the employees and the active retirees are evaluated by an actuary to determine the cost of paying out what's expected for, until we all, just kick the butt.
Do you remember when they were talking about that?
And so.
They hire out.
So there's, in this number is a payback amount for unfunded liability, because there are people who retired a few years ago who were paying in 5%. I pay 9 plus 2%. So 9% on everything, 2% on anything I make over $30,000 annually. But other people were paying much less, and those people live far longer now than they anticipate people would live. So we're not dying fast enough. And
We can fix that.
Are you subsidizing their retirement when they retire?
No, these are costs
They
that
get
as
their
new employees come in, these are the percentages that are attached, right? These are deductions that come right out of their pay.
Right, so
For you only?
For each employee.
For each.
Yes.
Each
So
ben,
Your 9 plus 2 is for you.
yes.
For me,
Yes.
anyone hired after a certain date is 9 plus 2, and I think that's the highest
I-
contribution, right?
I was just gonna
We
say,
still
I
have some
think
8s, and we still have.
some 7s, you
Yeah.
know, but
We had a few 5s.
that's what they paid into it.
Right, and so, now we're still.
Endlessly.
Yeah, and so the cost of giving a defined benefit means that you get the same amount, no matter what the market does, no matter how long you live. So, if you live a long time and you retire early, good for you. And then we need to
Gamble.
be better prepared to fund that unfunded liability. So there's a catch-up plan, I believe it was a 20-year payback plan.
We're
on
good.
track to.
And we're in good shape.
That was
Is this
extremely.
the catch-up money?
This is what we
We're
pay.
paying into
Yes,
it.
This is
That's-
what we pay.
But it's considered catch-up money.
Well, it's funding the unfunded liability, but what was the percentage? Do you remember the percentage, Melissa, where we're at, like what we've increased, like we're really impressive.
Yeah, we're almost fully funded.
That's
but they're
amazing.
Most cities aren't even
So I think there's
close.
like 5 or 6 years left for us to keep paying this larger
Mhm.
amount until we're fully caught up. However, they always like to say, oh, you'll be fully caught up. There's always a normal cost because we're always living longer and we're always not paying in.
We gotta
So
start
once we
spraying it
catch
in.
up, we will still have a payment.
Right.
It's a normal cost,
Right.
but at least we'll be fully funded, so
Right.
there's no liability to us. Suddenly, we couldn't pay it.
Yeah.
And we've been, fairly aggressive. But
And we're in good shape compared to most communities.
And
I agree.
when that finally happens, they'll make us fund the health insurance unfunded liability.
All right.
Oh, so we're not gonna have, we're
We'll
not gonna.
never
be
get
able to-
off the hook.
We're never gonna live, all right,
Never.
I don't wanna go there.
No, we don't.
Okay,
go
thank
there.
you.
All right. Workers' compensation,
Okay.
okay, that's school-related, I see that. This is paying workers' comp insurance, correct?
That's correct. We have, we
So
use
it's up a
Maya.
little bit.
We use Maya for our workers' comp, and the liability is out of my department. The workers' comp is out of HR. So these are, figures that we receive from Maya as to, I mean, they don't give us the amounts, but they'll, give us some percentages to expect for increases. And
Did they say that's a risk assessment, that's why it's up higher? Because we've had more workman's comp injuries or something? I mean, why did the premium go up, do I know? Did they say
Well,
why?
they pretty much go up like what.
Based on
Well, it went down in 16, now it's up.
They
15
cre-
was 147, 16, 145. Huh.
They also provide during the year, they'll do a shared benefit and, you know, and things like that. But I have to tell you that, you know, it's a cost that we have to, we'll be invoiced for it July 1st. We pay it immediately because if you pay it within 30 days, there's a huge percentage discount. And actually, when you're gonna get to my liability pretty soon, so, you know, we pay it all off, and
We have the cash
I
flow.
usually use that discount, actually gets us through the year. Without that, we probably wouldn't have the amounts to pay it. So the discounts are large, and we take advantage of every darn one of them.
Good.
So,
And
but
you
it's.
use that discount to pay other insurance.
Right, well, I
Whatever.
use that discount to pay, you know, my liability
Okay.
budget, and the budgets are separate. So Jane's is separate than mine, and she's expecting an increase, and whether or not it goes by our usage is high, as most, you know, just the word workers' comp,
We
I
have
think
we have a
you
lot of workers.
understand, you know, the expense of it, so. We're
Next thing-
hoping it won't be as high as we've asked for, but we've, you know, budgeted
Sure.
what we're estimating.
Medicare tax, that's what we have to pay the feds for Medicare. So that's an
you,
obvious,
right, Melissa? That's Melissa.
but that's
So it's
obvious.
just, you know, we pay 0.0145% on taxable income to the federal government. We do not pay Social Security.
No, we
which
do not.
means- Which is why we're paying
Which hurts my
retirement.
feelings.
But also, you know, we
Government
pay
employees don't
Medicare
get
tax
this.
on a lot of things that aren't in the budget. So we talked about earlier how we have some grant funded positions, all those Medicare costs come through here, overtime.
And school comes through here.
Well, right, right, and so they
Yeah.
have some grant funded positions as well, so, and then you, outside detail will come through here, which is, you know, traffic costs that we talked about with DPW, when we pay a policeman to do traffic around a job site. That's not something that is, not all of that is within the city, some of it is, you know, paid by the, utility corporations. So we pay Medicare tax on that as well.
Chapter 32B,
Again, Jane,
that's $500,000 more this year than last. Is that all healthcare premiums? Trust?
Well, yes, dental went down slightly, trust went up.
Trust went up 9%, but they paid back 3%, is that something like that? Or- That's what Mayor said yesterday.
The trust recommended, an increase of 8.8%, but the trust membership only voted for a 6.6% increase.
Oh.
The trust will absorb the rest.
But it's still a lot.
and you can also explain, Jane is on, you know, obviously, Jane attends the meetings, and I think soon will be voted in as, to the executive board, where, you know, each community is represented. We're one of the larger communities. People that wanted to get into the trust for many years are not allowed in, so.
Northampton's not allowed in.
Huh?
They're too risky.
Actually, Northampton wanted to be in.
I know, they
And-
did, but they wouldn't let them in.
No. So, the good point about that is, if one community has extremely high paid out benefits and the other has really low, it's all shared, you know, obviously it's by.
Share the pain and you share the gain.
Yeah, so it's also about, it's also, you know, we pay our bill according to our size,
Mhm.
you know, but they don't just, you know, you were the large users, it doesn't work like that, so it's a huge protection for us.
Great.
It's a very good healthcare plan, and it's pretty much related to the contracts that the employees have in their unions, that there is an insurance advisory board. I don't know if you know this, but that's how it's all negotiated.
And what Jane has been doing, which is another thing that we started that I'm sorry, Jane, I couldn't get to the meeting today, but she calls in 32B and meets with them so that they know, because there are going to be changes coming down the line.
Who did she call in? Who's?
The 32B is all the representatives of each union and the pay plan people.
The advisory board.
Yeah.
That's what you meant by
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, Insurance Advisory Board is 32B.
Right, okay.
So, Jane actually just had a meeting today, was her second meeting this month to tell them potential changes that are going to be coming our way, and so that they would, number one, have the information about it, but number two, maybe have a say in what, obviously they're going to be to get costs down, so,
You're talking about plan changes
Yes.
that you're recommending, or are they plan changes that?
We don't have a
the
choice.
trust
The
is-
trust
is recommending?
decides, but they're, like Jane's looking for input, and she'll bring it back to the trust. And
I
as
see.
to
I didn't know.
what you would prefer. Not that it would happen, but in the meantime, informing people that this wonderful premium plan that, costs us a premium, but the GIC has gone up every year.
Uh-huh.
So, but this is not going to stay this wonderful forever.
Right.
They are looking at changes. Which when you
Well,
look at
that's good to hear.
changes,
The
they're
trust is trying
cost-deductibles.
to be economical to, I don't know
Right.
what word I want to use, for the cities and towns that are in the trust. They're trying
Right.
to make it manageable, because if
Yep.
we try to keep the same plan, it goes up 10% every year. No city's going to be able to keep it.
Well, we were very
Well,
lucky because there were, over the last
Yeah.
6 years, we had
Mhm.
4 years with no increase.
Because they paid for it.
Because
Last year, we only had the 1.5%
Mhm.
increase.
So this is a big increase over last year.
Correct. Whereas, it was, last year it was, if they had done over those 4 years where there was nothing, if it was a smaller increase, each year, we might not have been hit as hard,
Mhm.
but,
I would
And-
rather have had the years where, how many years not paying it?
Yeah.
But-
Do the
but
math.
If I understand it correctly, this is a self-paid trust. It pays the claims out of the trust. It's not they don't go to another insurance agency.
Not until-
Blue Cross and Blue
no.
Shield manages it, but the trust pays the claims, right?
correct, up to a certain dollar limit, then there's a stop limit insurance policy that kicks in when
Right.
it hits a certain amount.
But it
But-
would seem to me that the claims are up, which is why they had to increase their
Prescription
premium.
costs is where they're.
Really hit right there? Okay. That's important to know. Okay.
And that's no surprise to anybody, anyone that has insurance anywhere in this country knows, the exorbitant costs and,
They're up about 39% for prescription costs.
Holy cow.
and we do look at comparative plans
Saw that
and,
purpose.
and actually you have contacted a different provider.
But it's just the trust, like Mayor just said, the trust gives us some added protection
Sure.
that a lot of the others, companies and plans will not have for the plan we have.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of this.
Well, and is
The
it,
other-
in your opinion, is the trust something that's stable enough, that's going to manage
Yes.
itself?
Yes.
Communities that are in it aren't leaving for any reason?
The
Because when we lose
trust-
too many communities, we can't have a trust.
They're trying to get in, not get
People are
out.
trying to get in
And the
'cause-
trust is being very, very selective as to who is allowed in.
Because of the amount of claims they might encumber.
There was
Because
another couple issues, legal issues that they didn't let another 2 communities in for. So it was, they are not bringing in somebody that's gonna cost the trust more money.
And
they can't kick a community out, can they? Can the other cities and towns
No.
vote East Hampton out?
no.
Good to hear.
And-
All right, I
no,
just want-
and-
in
and-
case our claims go up.
And the other thing is, if we were to leave the trust, we might, get like a little bit of, money back. But if we wanted to get back in, number one, we probably wouldn't be accepted, but it would cost us quite a few $100,000 to get back in.
Yeah.
So you have to pay to get into the trust.
It's good to be here already.
Yeah, so for us, when we compare our costs to other plans, like the only thing that would be similar to what we pay is a lot less plan. So we would be
You
saving
get what you
anything.
pay for.
Right. So
And
we-
you get employee morale,
But
that's
the-
good because we have a good healthcare plan.
But the other
I-
plans are the same price and offer a lot less coverage, high deductibles, which are very difficult for people. It's really difficult if you need to.
I've already
go to the
met
hospital.
mine.
Gotta keep you out of the
I
hospital.
So
could have
that-
like 6 surgeries this
So
year.
that's what Jane's trying to say, is in trying to provide information to the 32B, which is really good to reach out, because we had some trust issues over the,
Yeah.
you know, over the years, so things have really increased in the last 3 years there. But, she's telling them, you know, we don't have any of these deductibles, but that's not gonna last forever. So
But
there will be
it's
changes
the
coming
trust
down.
initiating these things. It's not
Right.
City of East Hampton
Exactly.
asking the trust to change the plan. It's the trust doing it, saying,
To
we
say,
can't manage this
"We
plan like
can't
it is.
Have, you know, well, these changes are coming. It's not a if, it's just a matter of what. So I'm trying to take the position with the union reps on this committee that I need you to talk to your members and see, if I have to give in to the trust, what would you like me to suggest? The trust has the ultimate decision, but because we have a high percentage in the vote, I'd like to be able to say.
How much are you gonna push on one
My
thing?
members are willing to do this, can you do this instead of this?
And what you alluded to is because the City of East Hampton is one of the larger communities, you have a larger percentage of vote
Correct.
power in the trust.
Correct.
Okay.
What is this trust called?
Hampshire.
Hampshire,
Just Hampshire Trust?
Hampshire County Trust.
It's healthcare, yeah. It's only healthcare, right? It's dental and,
They have dental, but we don't go through them.
well, we don't use them for dental, it's
No.
just medical insurance and prescription. Okay. Going on, anything else on this 32B, guys? Gas B45, actuarial, that's not even being used. Forget that one. Liability is under the mayor, that's what you were alluding to before.
Yes, and you can see that I put a slight increase. I'm expecting a slight increase. I'm hoping it's gonna be a slight increase, but again,
If you get the discount.
you know, and we do, you know, one of the other things that, you know, that we did not too long ago is we had different insurance companies for workers' comp and liability. And by grouping them, you know, there is an additional savings. So we now, I've been extremely happy with Maya for many, many years as our liability carrier, and we now use them, as you see, for workers' comp. So it allows us different discounts, same thing as if your car in your house or in the, you know. But I'm hoping that it won't be higher than that, and,
Good.
and other things are paid out of that too, like, I also, all the lawsuits are out of my office, and you'll see, like, there's, deductibles that come out of there too. So, it's not just, you know, it all falls under liability insurance, but it's also our fleet schedule. The vehicles are out of my office, so it insures as vehicles go on, as vehicles come off. You know, it's basically the car insurance. It insures all our buildings, our assets, and then our liability. So when we have a lawsuit, there's deductibles on there, and then again, Maya provides us with an attorney, so that's 3 separate attorneys now. You have your labor attorney, your city attorney, and then our legal lawsuits, which, you know,
The
so.
liability insurance.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
that's good,
Okay.
because it's in their best interest to have the attorney, because they have to pay it out.
Right, and we have a deductible, so every so many years, you know, because lawsuits are never 1 year, so we pay, it's a $10,000 deductible, so you'll see, I'll see invoices.
The last thing is the reserve fund, which I wanted to compliment you on, Mayor, because I think you should keep it high, rather than put money into like the maintenance of fire trucks and everything else. You put it here, and that way you can distribute it where it's needed, rather than just budget all those items. I
Well,
think it's a good idea.
And I think the consensus, I think, you know, Melissa and I agree that a lot of our budgets, you know, a lot of it is best estimates, and a lot of our budgets are very tight, so we do need this when they come back. We would rather, you know, even though it's, you know, transfers going back and forth, we would rather do it this way than putting the money in the budgets.
Right.
You know, so, because you don't know where to put it.
I agree.
So, you know, it's, you know, could be
And you
different.
don't know what your free cash is, so you have some money there that you know you have
Right.
as reserve. If you have free cash, great. If you don't have as much,
Right.
and that comes in October. So that concludes.
Unemployment,
Did I do it? Oh, I skipped it, I'm sorry.
no,
That's
you didn't
mine?
skip,
Last
you didn't
one.
skip it,
The
it's the
last
last one.
Right. Yep, that's standard stuff. That's unemployment compensation.
And I don't think people realize that, you know, somebody's on unemployment, we pay that. We pay
Fully.
that.
It's not insured, we pay it fully.
Right.
And I'm glad to see it's not 170,000, it's 70.
All right.
I would have thought it'd be higher, but I'm,
Well, don't
For the
forget,
first month, I had a bill of $150, $147 this month. That was the lowest I've ever seen.
Unemployment.
For unemployment.
right, you're billed monthly.
Correct.
And
they get that, for how many years do they get it once they're?
now it's 6 months, that's the difference. At one time, it was 2 years. You know, it's tough for somebody unemployed, but, you know, it's, used to be 2 years. It was 1 year with another extension, so now it's 6 months.
So if they go to the unemployment office, they collect, but
Mhm.
the unemployment office charges you directly because there's no insurance.
But
Isn't there a
I've been
hearing?
appealing a lot.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say.
we have the right to appeal, like,
You have the right to appeal based on if it's, you know, a wrong claim,
right.
if it's a
You know,
wrong
like
claim.
With substitute teacher files, I'm obviously gonna appeal it because.
Right.
They weren't full-time.
They're not, correct.
That's something else that we've done in the last 3 years. That started before Jane, as getting people that are not eligible to, you know, like seasonals to not collect unemployment when they're out. So that's, you know, another thing. Just, you know, just by having qualified employees that are skilled in their job and know what they're doing is a savings.
Yes.
Yes,
It
because
just
they
is.
don't.
Yeah.
They get unemployment if they're fired, or is it only
Yes.
layoffs? They
Yes.
can get it if they're fired.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless there is a,
Criminal act.
Probably even then
All right, so now that concludes. Am I correct?
I think so.
That concludes employee benefits. So, reading the bottom line, I'll make a motion that we pass on to the city council the mayor's recommendation for employee benefits of $7,954,556.72.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are done.
So you can see how large, when you're looking at your summary, you can see how large that item is.
It is.
You know?
And when people talk to me about what do we give to the schools, I said, we pay the benefits, so don't
Mhm.
forget that. It's not just the 16 million we give them that they can use, it's the benefits. And
And the other thing.
sometimes people don't want to count that, it's your tax money. You gotta count it.
Well, that's coming along the line. Pretty soon people are going to be taxed on that.
Taxed on what?
You know, through probably your federal government, because as you notice, we're starting to have to put that on the W-2s, right?
What are
Melissa?
you talking
Our
about?
benefits are an item on the W-2, so at one point, pretty soon, taxpayers are going to have to pay.
Unless you're a certain candidate for office, then you don't have to pay it.
Yeah.
That's another political
But-
statement I didn't say.
and again,
I
you-
didn't
We
say
haven't
that.
adjourned yet.
Okay.
But you've touched on this before, you know, a lot of, to me, there's a strong belief in wages, you know, benefits versus wages. Most, and I'm sure you, if anybody, have you ever been union or involved with unions, you'll know that benefits a lot of times are more valuable than hourly increases, you know, than people's wage increases. And most of the unions will, and I don't mean
Push,
here,
yeah,
I'm talking
just-
nationally,
Yeah.
will fight for their benefits because they are that important. And they are part of your salary, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
Okay. But I don't want to pay tax.
Me neither.
I wanted to mention that we are gonna get something from the CPA that we'll need to, what I'm gonna try and do is set a public hearing for July, because if we only have one meeting in June. So we're gonna need a finance meeting. I'm not getting anything else from you, Mayor,
No, I hope
for
not.
this
I
month.
hope
So I'd like to do it June 22nd, which is the second. It would be we normally meet on the 8th and the 22nd, but I would rather do it on the 22nd. So if that's all right with you guys, that'll be our next finance meeting.
So skip the 8th.
Yeah. And we don't have a meeting on the 15th for council, so it'll be a while before we get to it, but that'll discuss the CPA supplemental it's for $8,000 for fire suppressors for housing authorities, so that they could have fire suppressors. It's a real quick.
I just deleted the
We
8th.
voted it down. We gave them more money. We said, well, have some extras.
Dan, when did you say? I just deleted the 8th.
It's 22nd.
2-2. Thank you.
If that's all right. But that's a quickie for the CPA. And Okay, and I'm gonna set a public hearing for that for July, so that they can get their fire suppressors in.
Please.
Okay, and that concludes, so.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. See you. I don't know, do you think that's still going on?
It's
the
still
meeting up
red.
there?